Your jaw tightens before your mind can argue. Heat rises in your cheeks. A word, a look, a ping from your phone, and your whole body surges as if the room tilts. You swallow fast, rush to explain, to defend, to fix, and afterward you replay every syllable like a detective at the scene of your own life. Sound familiar? Here's the turn. You can build a nervous system that doesn't fling you around. In the next hour, you'll learn why your brain trips alarms, how to switch from reflex to choice in under a minute, and how to train steady confidence like a skill, not a personality trait. The promise is simple and serious. Fewer hijacks, clearer thinking when it counts, and a way to carry calm like a tool belt you can reach for in the dark. You start with one idea that quietly changes everything. A trigger is not an order, it's a notification. Your amygdala, the brain's smoke detector, is fast but not wise. It yanks blood flow from your prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, weighs, chooses. In a hijack, your body becomes a megaphone for old patterns, and your inner narrator scripts the worst version of the story. But neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire, means every trigger is also a rep. This book turns those reps into training. The framework is called the trigger-to-training loop. Notice, normalize, navigate, and then neurologically reinforce. You'll run that loop again and again until your reflex is to self-command instead of self-combust. Feel your breath where it meets your upper lip, cool on the inhale, warmer on the exhale. Notice your shoulders, the way gravity asks them to drop a centimeter. Hear the quiet in the room, the faint hum of electricity, the distant traffic like low surf. These sensory details are your anchors. Each time you look for them, you steal back attention from the old emergency. Here's how the loop begins. First, notice. Your body will tell you before your mouth does. Jaw, throat, chest, gut, one of these is your early siren. Give it a name you'll remember, like spark in the chest or grip in the stomach. Second, normalize. The alarm is a feature, not a flaw. Say, I'm having the sensation of spark in the chest. Say it exactly like that. Third, navigate. You'll use the 90-second weather rule. Emotions, when not refueled by catastrophic thinking, crest and settle in roughly a minute and a half. For those 90 seconds, you'll breathe, label, and watch. Finally, reinforce. You'll teach your reticular activating system, the brain's filter, to tag calm as relevant by logging your micro-wins. Tiny repetitions create sticky circuits. Picture a Tuesday morning in a fluorescent conference room. You're 3 coffees in, clicker in hand, presenting the numbers you sweated over. Midway, a senior manager interrupts with a sharp, "This forecast assumes fantasy adoption. Did anyone sanitize check?" Heat blooms behind your ears. Your vision tunnels. You want to fire back or shrink. That's the trigger, now the training. You drop your attention to your nostrils and run a 4-4-6 breath. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Your tongue loosens from the roof of your mouth. You whisper inside, spark in the chest, 90 seconds, watch the weather. You feel the waves swell. You don't feed it with a story. When your prefrontal lights come back on, you ask one clarifying question. Which assumption worries you most, the churn rate or the onboarding curve? 20 minutes later, the room is collaborating instead of crowding you. After, while the adrenaline residue drains, you jot 2 lines in your notes app. Trigger, public challenge. Training, 4-4-6, 90-second watch, 1 question. Win, stayed curious. That log is reinforcement. You just paid your brain to repeat it. Let's talk science without the lab coat. The amygdala's job is to flag anything that resembles danger based on your history. It's pattern matching on speed. When it fires, cortisol and adrenaline cascade, your heart rate jumps, your breathing shallows, your attention narrows to threat. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of choice, temporarily downgrades. This is why you say things you wouldn't say later, why you send the message you wish you hadn't, why you reread a text like it's a verdict. But breathing with a longer exhale taps your vagus nerve, which is the brake pedal of your nervous system. Labeling sensations recruits language centers and weakens the alarm loop. Directing your eyes to one stable point steadies the vestibular system. These are not hacks, they are levers. Use them, and you change the chemistry in real time. Run your first drill now. Sit up just enough to feel your spine lengthen like a drawn line from tailbone to crown. Unclench your teeth. Place your tongue lightly behind your top front teeth. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do 5 rounds. On the exhale, imagine the breath brushing the bottom of your ribs. Next, say quietly, I'm noticing, and then name a raw sensation. Warmth in my cheeks, weight in my chest, fizz under my skin. Avoid the story. No because, just whether. Now for 90 seconds, watch. If your mind adds a thought, they don't respect me, I always screw this up, tag it with I'm having the thought that, and let it pass like a subtitle, not the movie. When you're done, place your hand on your sternum and feel the residual vibrations. This is you stepping back into the driver's seat. Your reticular activating system is the bouncer at the door of attention. It lets in what you tell it matters. For years, you may have trained it to notice threats, slights, and future disasters. That's not because you're negative. It's because threat once kept you safe. Now you're going to train it to spotlight cues of safety and capability. The micro practice is called Aim the Lens. 3 times today, write one sentence that begins with I handled, even if the win is tiny. I handled the discomfort of pausing before I hit send. I handled my racing heart without running from the meeting. I handled the urge to prove and chose to ask. This sends a precise instruction to your RAS, track steadiness. When you collect these, you teach your brain to make calm the headline. Notice your hands. Are they cool or warm? Notice your breathing's texture, rough like sandpaper or smooth like silk. Notice the room's temperature on your cheeks, the way fabric presses at your collarbones, the sound your lips make when they part. Each notice is a thread back to now. Now is where power lives. Let's layer another tool into the trigger-to-training loop, the window widen protocol. When a trigger shrinks your options, your window of tolerance narrows. You feel caged inside one reaction. Window widen has 4 quiet moves. You pause the motor impulses by freezing your hands for 2 breaths, palms open, fingers soft. You name the smallest accurate feeling word, anger, fear, shame, envy, not a paragraph. You widen the scene with one outside detail, the pattern in the carpet, the color of someone's scarf, the hum of the AC. Then you pick the smallest wise action available. Ask a question, request water, say, give me a moment. The combination reintroduces choice to the moment that tried to squeeze you. There's a story you might recognize. A friend of mine, Kay, ran a tiny design studio. A client called, angry about a delay, voice sharp enough to cut. Kay's stomach fell through the floor. She felt the old script, apologize too much, overpromise, work all night to fix it. Instead, she let her hands go still, palms resting on the desk, fingers soft for 2 breaths. Then she named the feeling fear. She widened the scene. She noticed the sunlight on her plant leaves and the scratch on her mug. Small, ordinary facts returned dimension to reality. Finally, she took the smallest wise action. I hear this matters. Let me pull up the timeline while we're on the phone so we can adjust from facts. 10 minutes later, the call ended with a new deadline and no secret resentment. That's training. 1 rep at a time, the system learns. If a storm is moving through your chest right now, try the 90-second weather rule again, but mark it with time. Glance at a clock. Tell the wave, you have 90 seconds of my full attention. For those seconds, feel the sensations without adding gasoline thoughts. If a thought arrives, tag it with "I'm having the thought that," and picture it written in chalk on a sidewalk. A breeze smudges it. Your job is not to stop thinking. Your job is to let thoughts come and go like pedestrians while you stay seated on a bench. When 90 seconds pass, choose one tiny outward behavior that signals direction. Straighten a paper, sip water, write a 3-word plan. The body loves direction more than debate. You'll meet resistance. Part of you will argue that if you don't react, people win, or that calm equals weakness. The opposite is true. Reactivity is a string someone else can pull. Calm is clean power. This is not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally sovereign. You can feel 100 weather systems and act from stable ground. You can be fiery and still choose where to point the flame. Let your shoulders drop again. Imagine there's warm honey pouring down the back of your neck. Imagine your breath has weight and you're setting it down gently, one exhale at a time. Ask yourself, where in my body does confidence live when it's quiet? You might feel it as width across the collarbones, as heaviness in the hips, as a cool forehead. Anchor there. Confidence isn't a sentence you recite, it's a place you return to. We'll close this first session by stitching identity into action. You are not your next reaction, you are the awareness choosing it. When a trigger shouts, the untrained mind fuses with the shout. Training teaches the slight separation where choice lives. Say to yourself, I am the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself. Feel how that sentence opens a spare, clear room inside you, a sanctuary with a chair by a window. In that room, you can watch a storm without becoming rain. In that room, you can decide the next wise thing, not the next loud thing. Your homework is small and specific. Pick one early warning siren, jaw, throat, chest, or gut, and name it. Today, run 3 reps of the trigger-to-training loop. When a spark flares, notice with your named siren. Normalize with the sentence, this is a feature. Navigate with the 90-second weather rule using 4-4-6 breathing. Reinforce by logging one line that starts with I handled. Tonight, read your 3 lines out loud slowly to train the RAS. Then sleep as if your brain is installing an update, because it is. Feel the chair under you, the soles of your feet, the slow tide of your breath. Tomorrow and the next day, triggers will come. That's not the test, that's the gym. You'll step in with your tools, one rep, then another. This is how you go from triggered to trained, from reflex to authorship, from borrowed fear to steady confidence you can feel in your bones. You're ready to turn the first sparks into clean electricity. Part 2 is about what you do in the first 15 seconds after a trigger and the 90 after that. It's the difference between a reflex that burns bridges and a response that builds them. You'll install a protocol so practiced it runs even when your mind is noisy. The framework is called the circuit breaker sequence. It has 4 moves that fit inside a half-minute. Stop the motion, soften the breath, spot the story, select the smallest wise action. You will repeat it until your nervous system trusts it more than the old flinch. Think about how quickly your body moves you. Fingers fly to the keyboard. Voice climbs a register. Shoulders creep toward your ears. Your motor system is a faster animal than your intention, so the first move is physical. When the trigger lands, freeze everything below the neck for 2 breaths. Palms open, shoulders heavy, jaw unhooked. This stops the chain reaction. The second move is the 4-4-6 breath you tasted before. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Do it twice. The longer exhale nudges your vagus nerve and pulls the chemistry back toward calm. Third, spot the story by using the phrase, "I'm having the thought that." Put the noisy line after it. "I'm having the thought that they're disrespecting me. I'm having the thought that I'm about to lose everything." This wording slices you from the thought just enough to see it. Last, select the smallest wise action. Not the perfect action, not the courageous speech, just the next inch you would respect later. Ask a question. Defer a decision. Say, "Let me check something." Notice your environment right now, the temperature on the back of your neck, the faint fan breath of the room, the texture under your left thumb. When you punctuate a trigger with these details, you pull your attention out of the tunnel and back into a wider frame. Wider frames carry better choices. Let me show you the circuit breaker sequence in a different arena: relationships. Leela is stirring a pot of tomato sauce when her partner, Ari, drops the line that always hooks her. "If you just planned earlier, we wouldn't be rushing like this." Her ribs tighten as if someone cinched a belt. The urge is to list every task she has done this week, to throw a ladle of data at him to prove her worth. Instead, she plants her feet hip-width on the tile and stills her hands, the wooden spoon hovering above the red simmer, 2 breaths with everything below the neck quiet. Then 4-4-6 twice, the exhale brushing her ribs like a soft cloth. Internally, she tags the thought, "I'm having the thought that he thinks I'm failing." Space opens. She selects the smallest wise action, one curious question. "What's the part that feels most rushed to you?" Ari blinks, surprised into specificity. "Dinner with your sister and the drive." 10 minutes later, they're splitting tasks without the acid. That's not magic, it's training. Here's the science bridge that makes this worth your time. The moment you freeze motor output, you interrupt a loop between premotor cortex and limbic system that would otherwise feed on itself. You conserve glucose for the prefrontal cortex, the part that holds options. The 4-4-6 breath increases vagal tone enough to slow your heart rate and restore variability between beats, which correlates with flexible responding. The language of "I'm having the thought that" shifts activity from the default mode network's rumination to lateral prefrontal circuits associated with metacognition. These are not abstract fun facts. They are the architecture you're rewiring every time you practice. Let's rehearse. Imagine a mild trigger from today, a calendar invite that doubles your workload, a text that reads, "We need to talk," a look that felt sharp, "See it arrive." Now run the sequence in real time, freeze everything below the neck, soften your face, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. Again, now silently, "I'm having the thought that." Pick the simplest wise inch. Maybe you type, "Got it, can we align on goals before I accept?" Maybe you add one line to your notebook, clarify scope. Feel the slight relief that follows direction. Your nervous system likes a plan more than a pep talk. Between these moves, we'll lay another layer, the 3-angle reframe. It's a way to speak to your brain's reticular activating system in 3 dialects so it actually listens. After you tag the thought, you generate 3 statements about the same event. A positive plausible, "Something in this could help me improve a system." A neutral precise, "A meeting was scheduled, I'll clarify the deliverables." A negative plausible contained, "If I'm overloaded, I could miss a detail, I'll ring fence an hour." The point isn't forced optimism, it's flexibility. You're teaching your attention to hold more than one version of reality, which prevents the amygdala from crowning the scariest one as king. Pause here and check your body. Is there warmth in your cheeks? A pulsing in your wrists? Is your belly taut like a drum or soft like a folded blanket? Label one sensation and keep your eyes on a single object in the room, a door frame or a book spine. 30 seconds of this, and the vestibular system gives the mind a message. The world is stable, you can be too. You will forget to use the sequence sometimes. That's expected. The old reflex has thousands of reps, so we use a trick called cue stacking to make the right behavior easier. Pick a recurring cue in your day, the moment your phone lights up, the squeak of your office chair, the sound of your kettle clicking off. Stack the first 2 moves of the sequence on that cue even when you're not triggered. Phone lights up, palms open, 2 steady breaths, chair squeaks, 4, 4, 6 once, kettle clicks. I'm having the thought that I need to rush becomes I'm having the thought that I can sip before I send. You're not waiting for the fire, you're laying hose along the street. In a small, sunlit co-working space, Sam, a junior developer, stared at an error log that looked like a forest on fire. A senior engineer hovered behind him, impatient. Sam's throat went dry. His old pattern was to hide in speed, type faster, explain less, introduce bugs. This time the chair squeaked and cued the drill. Hands still, 2 breaths. I'm having the thought that they'll think I'm incompetent. He selected the smallest wise action, narrate 1 step. I'm going to reproduce the issue in a sandbox first. The senior's shoulders dropped. 10 minutes later, the fix was clean. Sam didn't become a genius in 10 minutes, he became trained. If your mind resists with a sneer, this is too simple to work, smile at the mind. Complexity is a costume the ego wears to avoid practice. Brains love repetition. Every rep is a stitch. Every stitch is part of a net that will catch you later. You might forget during a big storm. You'll remember earlier the next time. That curve is the work. Check your senses again. The air on your forearms, the weight of your tongue in your mouth, the coolness of the inhale over your upper lip. You are reminding your system that there's more to reality than the trigger. Triggers shrink time and space. Sensory detail widens both. Let's run a deeper drill. It's called the anchor phrase protocol. When the alarm hits, people often grab for sentences like "I'm fine" or "it's okay." Those phrases are cotton candy. They melt on contact with heat. Anchor phrases are built like tool steel, short, true, stabilizing. Examples: not urgent, not dangerous. Small step, then next. Witness first, act second. Choose one now. Say it out loud once, then whisper it once, then just mouth it once. Feel the different textures, vibration in your chest, breath on your teeth, silent movement of lips. Later, in a meeting or an argument, you can mouth it without sound and the body will still recognize the cue. That's a private hand on the brake. You might ask, what about pain that comes from old wounds, not present threats? The sequence still helps, and the 3-angle reframe becomes essential. When the past echoes, the positive plausible might be "I'm practicing doing this differently." The neutral precise might be "a memory is active." Present facts are X. The negative plausible contained might be "this will hurt for a while. I can still make a small, wise move." You are not pretending the pain isn't real. You are refusing to let one version of the story run the entire show. A friend once told me about a train platform at dusk. He'd just gotten a message from his sister. Their father's diagnosis had worsened. People jostled. A cold wind ribboned down the tracks. He felt his chest lock and his vision shrink to a point. On the edge of that platform, he ran the sequence like muscle memory. Hands still inside his coat pockets. 2, 4, 4, 6 breaths as the train roared in and blasted his face with grit. I'm having the thought that I can't handle this. Then the smallest wise action, text back 3 words, I'm on my way, before his mind could spiral into catastrophes. On the train, he added the 3-angle reframe. Positive plausible, I will learn how to love him in this. Neutral precise, the doctor called, I'm traveling tonight. Negative, plausible, contained. Sleep will be thin. I'll call work in the morning. He didn't erase fear. He escorted it. Your homework will sound familiar because training is repetition with attention. For the next 24 hours, pick one cue to stack with the first two moves. Phone screen, chair squeak, door handle in your home. Each time you meet the cue, still your hands and run 1446. That's it. When real triggers appear, run the full sequence at least twice. Log them with 3 lines. Trigger, smallest wise action, anchor phrase used. Then add one 3-angle reframe for any event that kept tugging your attention hours later. You are teaching your RAS to prioritize steadiness and specificity over vague dread. Feel your feet against the floor. Let your shoulder blades slide down your back like smooth stones. Sip a tiny bit more air at the top of the next inhale, then let the exhale float down your spine. Ask yourself, what is the smallest wise action I can take in the next 5 minutes? Maybe it's water. Maybe it's drafting a sentence you've been avoiding. Maybe it's standing up and stretching your hip flexors. Confidence lives wherever you keep promises to yourself in small, visible ways. Remember the identity shift we are practicing. You are not the noise, you are the one who hears it. You are the witness who can touch the brake, widen the window, and pick the inch that leads to the mile. When tomorrow's trigger arrives, your body will remember the sequence faster than your mind does. That's training. That's you becoming trustworthy to yourself under pressure. And that feeling, self-trust, quietly changes how every room feels when you enter it. Today you'll begin the quiet work of rewiring triggers at the source. You've learned to interrupt the surge and choose the next inch. Now we turn to the patterns underneath, the stories and settings that keep pulling the fire alarm. This part installs 2 frameworks you can carry into any room, the calibration clock and the boundary triangle. The first teaches you when to soothe, when to solve, and when to step back. The second gives you language that transforms vague resentment into clean requests. Together, they turn your nervous system from a smoke detector into a thermostat. Imagine a circular clock face. 12 at the top is soothe, 4 o'clock is solve, 8 o'clock is step back. That's the calibration clock. Most people live stuck at one point. Some soothe everything and never solve. Some lunge to solve without soothing. Some step back so hard they vanish. Your job is to rotate intentionally. After a trigger, you ask, which quarter of the clock will regulate me most right now? If your heart is pounding and your vision is small, you start at soothe. Breath, label, 90-second watch. If your body is steadier and facts are muddy, you slide to solve, clarify, plan, act. If the system is too hot, someone is baiting you, the deadline is impossible, the argument is looping, you step back, time box, pause, exit with dignity. You don't need to choose perfectly. You need to choose deliberately, which teaches your brain that you have more than one move. Feel your seat beneath you, the points where your thighs meet the chair. Notice the coolness of the air along the inside of your nostrils, the way the exhale warms your upper lip. Let your shoulders grow heavy toward the floor, as if they've remembered gravity after a long day of pretending to hold up the sky. These sensations are not cute extras, they are your keys. Each time you notice them, you are strengthening the neural pathway that asks, where on the clock am I? In a real Tuesday, Malik, a project lead, sits in a glass-walled huddle room. His team's demo failed in front of a client. Now his manager, in a soft, disappointed tone, asks, "Why didn't you escalate the risks earlier?" Malik's stomach drops and heat pricks his scalp. The old reflex is to over-explain, to dump context like sandbags. Instead, he glances at the imaginary clock on the wall. 12, soothe first. Hands still, 2, 4, 4, 6 breaths. He labels shame, tight throat, heat in scalp. The wave crests. He rotates to 4, solve. We saw a performance regression on Friday and misscoped the fix. I'm proposing we pair with Ops tomorrow and expand the load testing harness. Would you like a one-page risk register by end of day? The room shifts. Manager nods. Later, when he feels the old guilt echo, he rotates again to 8, step back, by putting a 40-minute block on his calendar labeled debrief, not doomsday. The clock wasn't a metaphor, it was a steering wheel. Let's build the boundary triangle. Picture a simple triangle with 3 sides labeled specific, kind, firm. Most attempts at boundaries are only one side, vague kindness that gets ignored or harsh firmness that sparks backlash or specificity without either tone. A clean boundary touches all 3. First, specific, one observable behavior and its impact. Second, kind, assume dignity on both sides, choose language that doesn't stab. Third, firm, a clear request or a consequence you can and will honor. You'll practice writing these like a musician practicing scales. Check your breath. Is it shallow, buzzing near your collarbones? Let the next inhale drop into your lower ribs like water filling a basin. Feel the waistband of your pants against your skin. Hear one sound farther away than your room: traffic, a bird, a neighbor's laugh. Each detail is a handrail as you climb out of reactivity. The boundary triangle becomes essential in the moments when someone else's pattern pulls at yours. Picture Tessa, a marketing coordinator, whose colleague routinely messages at 10:30 p.m. with quick favors. Tessa's nervous system flares, resentment, and the fear of being seen as unhelpful. She drafts a boundary in 3 passes. Specific, I'm noticing late-night requests with short turnarounds. Last night's Slack at 10:22 had me working past 11. Kind, I want to support the team and keep my evenings for rest so I can produce well during the day. Firm, from now on, I'll address requests sent after 6 p.m. the next business day. If something is truly urgent, please text me before 6 with the deadline and I'll confirm if I can cover. Otherwise, I'll pick it up in the morning. She sends it at 2:15 p.m., not in the heat. The colleague pushes back once. She repeats it calmly, then follows through twice. Boundary becomes culture. Science briefly to anchor your trust. When you rotate on the calibration clock, you are toggling networks. Soothe activates parasympathetic tone, letting your prefrontal cortex come online. Solve engages dorsal attention networks and task-positive circuits. Step back quiets limbic amplitude by removing fuel. No new stimuli, less rumination. Meanwhile, clean boundaries reduce prediction error. Your nervous system hates uncertainty more than it hates no. Specific, kind, firm messages reduce uncertainty in both brains, which lowers collective cortisol. This is why clear requests feel like fresh air. We'll rehearse with words because language shapes your nervous system's predictions. Take a situation where you routinely get hooked. Maybe it's a teammate who talks over you, a sibling who jokes at your expense, a manager who schedules quick chats without an agenda. Write 3 one-sentence boundaries, each built with the triangle. Do this out loud if you can. Your mouth teaches your mind what it is capable of saying. Keep your voice low and warm. Don't let it rise to a question at the end. Let your tongue rest lightly behind your top teeth, between sentences, to soften the jaw. Pause and scan your body again. There's a subtle buzzing in your forearms, perhaps, or a coolness behind your knees. The room's light has a temperature too, bluish, yellow, soft. Notice one shadow on the wall. Noticing is regulating. Here's a story from a small founder's office with concrete floors and a potted snake plant. Jorge runs a 5-person animation studio. A major client kept adding tiny tweaks after approvals. Each tweak meant 2 hours at midnight and a slow drip of resentment into the team. The trigger for Jorge was the email line, One last tiny change. He used to swallow it and smile. After a sleepless week, he drew the boundary triangle on his notebook. Civic, we are seeing change requests after approval on V2, like adding shadows to frames 70-110. Each adds 2-4 hours. Kind, we care about getting this right and protecting quality by protecting our team's energy. Firm, we can do post-approval tweaks in batches at our hourly rate, or we can roll them into the next sprint if timing allows. We'll pause the current delivery until we align. He sent the email with his palms warm and steady on the desk. The client balked once, then adapted. The studio kept its soul. Between boundaries and calibration lives a quiet skill, de-escalating your inner prosecutor. When you're triggered, your mind wants to build a case. It stacks evidence, assigns motive, declares a verdict. We'll install the prosecutor to partner shift using a micro drill called the two-question turn. After you spot your story with "I'm having the thought that," you ask two questions in order. What fact would I put in a police report? And what would a respectful partner aim for here? The first strips out fiction. The second aims your behavior. Facts. They messaged at 10:22 p.m. I replied at 10:24. I worked until 11:07. Partner aim. Be clear about my limits and propose a path. Those two questions pull you from performance theater into constructive movement. Let your breath brush the back of your throat. Feel how the exhale lengthens the space between thoughts by a millimeter. Sense the weight of your feet on the floor, the skin of your ankles against your socks, the fabric line across your shoulder. Small weights steadying you. Your brain will sometimes insist, if I set boundaries, I'll lose love or opportunities. This is where identity work meets behavior. Tell yourself the sentence that grows a different self. I am someone who is kind and clear. The pairing matters. Kind without clear erodes you. Clear without kind isolates you. Kind and clear builds steady confidence that shows up as softness in the face and straightness in the spine. Confidence isn't loud, it's aligned. We'll layer in one more tool to train the prefrontal cortex to return faster, the emotional alchemy ladder. It's 5 rungs you climb when a state is sticky. Name, normalize, neutralize, nudge, nourish. Name is a single word: anger, envy, grief. Normalize is the sentence: of course this is here, my system is working. Neutralize is a tiny physical reset: cold water on wrists, 20 wall push-ups, stepping outside for 3 breaths. Nudge is the smallest wise action. We've practiced that. Nourish is a microdose of goodness after the effort. A stretch, a short walk, a kind line in your notebook. Each rung is simple, together they're powerful. Over time, your brain encodes a reliable path out of the ditch. A short scene on a commuter bus at 7:40 a.m. Rain ticks the windows, heavy coats smell like wool. Priya reads a message from her mother: you never call unless you need something. Her chest tightens into a fist. She nearly types a defense. Instead, she silently climbs the ladder. Name, anger and hurt. Normalize, of course, old pattern. Neutralize. She presses her cool water bottle against the inside of her wrist for 20 seconds. Nudge, I can talk tonight, can we pick a time? Nourish, she raises her chin an inch and lets her shoulders fall back against the seat. The bus keeps moving, so does she, but not in the groove the past carved for her. Look around your room as if you were describing it to someone on the phone who can't see. One line about light, one line about shape, one line about color. The mind cannot catastrophize and render reality in detail at the same time. You're building the attention that rescues you. Now we'll practice the calibration clock live. Think of a real situation you're in. Pick where you are on the clock. If you choose soothe, do 2 rounds of 4-4-6 and a 90-second weather watch. If you choose solve, write a 3-sentence plan that uses verbs you can execute in under an hour. If you choose step back, script the sentence you'll use to pause the interaction or renegotiate. I need 24 hours to get you a clean answer, or let's pick this up tomorrow with a clear agenda, or I'm going to step out for 5 minutes and then return. Feel the body response after choosing. Often your chest unknots and your jaw slackens. That feeling is your nervous system learning to trust you. One more story, this time in a gym that smells like rubber and eucalyptus spray. Nia, mid-30s, training for a half marathon, watches a faster runner zip by. Her brain throws its familiar hook. You're behind, you'll always be behind. She catches it with a small smile. Clock check, she's safe, no need to soothe much. She goes to solve. Today's plan is a steady 8 kilometers, negative split the last 2. An older man asks if he can work in on the treadmill and then takes hers when she steps off for a sip. Trigger spikes disrespect. Nia rotates to 8, step back with a boundary triangle. Specific, I stepped away for water, this was my treadmill. Kind, happy to share if we alternate sets. Firm, I'm going to continue my run on this one now. She says it at normal volume, eyes soft. He shrugs and moves one machine over. The old version of Nia would have swallowed it, then stewed. The trained version handled it in 6 seconds and went back to her negative split. That's a rep. As we close, we stitch identity again. You are the one who can choose where on the clock to stand. You are the one who can speak clean boundaries without breaking connection. You are the awareness who notices weather and returns to the room where power lives. When you practice these tools enough, people will say you're naturally calm. You will know better. You'll know you are trained. Your homework is simple and visible. Draw the calibration clock on a sticky note and put it where you'll see it. Laptop, fridge, the back of your phone. Today, label 3 moments with your position on the clock and the action you chose. Then write 1 boundary triangle for a small friction in your life and deliver it kindly, firmly, specifically within 48 hours. Log the result with the sentence I handled and the micro-feeling after. Looser shoulders, steadier breath, clearer head. Read your log before bed. Let your RAS file it under relevant. Feel the air touching the edges of your ears. Notice the weight of your eyelids even as they stay open. Place your right hand on your sternum, left hand on your belly, and breathe so the lower hand rises more than the upper. This is your signal to your animal body, safe enough to choose. And then choose again and again until choice is your reflex. Part 4 is about the voice in your head that grabs the wheel when you're tired, rushed, or scared. You know the one, the prosecutor, the doom poet, the narrator who claims to be just being honest while painting your future in grayscale. That voice is not you. It's a protective subroutine trained by old weather. Today you'll install a different narrator and give it something better to say. The frameworks are the S3 scan, signal, story, strategy, and the critic to coach converter. With these, you'll hear the first rough draft your brain spits out, strip it to data, and rewrite it into language that moves you. When you do this consistently, confidence stops being a mood and becomes the tone of your inner dialogue. Before we touch words, we touch body. Notice the soft brush of air at the rim of your nostrils. Let your eyes land on a single object across the room, a doorknob, a picture frame, and keep them there as if you were steadying a camera. Feel the weight where your back meets the chair, the subtle pull of gravity on your shoulders, the temperature on your forearms. These details don't fix thoughts. They lower the volume enough that you can edit them. The S3 scan is simple enough to run in a breath. First, signal what is objectively happening in your body and environment. Tingling hands, tight jaw, unread email with the subject line, quick question. Second story, what sentence did your mind auto-generate? They're disappointed in me, I'm going to blow this. I'm behind. Third strategy, what is the smallest wise action that addresses the signal and reality, not the drama? Breathe 4-4-6 twice, confirm the ask, propose a clear next step. Most people argue with their story, you won't. You'll acknowledge it, then spend your energy on strategy. The brain loves movement more than persuasion. A Tuesday afternoon scene, fluorescent lights, stale coffee, the hum of an old air conditioner. Devon, a new team lead, gets a ping from a director. Got time to chat about the roadmap? Devon's stomach dips, his scalp tingles. His story rushes in, she's about to tell me I'm not ready. He runs S3. Signal, stomach drop, scalp tingle, Slack message. Story, I'm not ready is trying to protect me by lowering expectations. Strategy, breathe, clarify purpose, bring my one page. He inhales 4, holds 4, exhales 6. Then he types, yes, what part of the roadmap would be most useful to focus on? I have a one-page summary I can pull up. 10 minutes later, it's a coaching conversation, not a firing squad. Same message, different nervous system. Check your senses again. Coolness on your upper lip as breath enters. The faint whir of a fan, the distant thud of a door, the way your shirt touches your collarbones. Each observation hangs a lantern in the room where choice happens. Now the critic to coach converter, C2C, it's a translation device for self-talk. The critic speaks in absolutes and identity, always, never, you are. The coach speaks in process and behaviors, today, next rep, try this. When the critic shouts, you don't debate, you paraphrase into coach language. You always freeze becomes, today you felt the freeze, next rep, run the sequence sooner. You're a mess becomes, your inputs were messy, clean one input now. Your nervous system doesn't need flattery, it needs a plan it believes. C2C gives it that plan. There's science under the hood. Negative self-talk activates networks tied to threat and punishment, which narrows attention and decreases working memory. Process language increases perceived controllability, which restores prefrontal resources. You're not manifesting, you're reallocating glucose. Let's rehearse out loud, because the mouth teaches the mind. Think of a sentence your critic likes. Maybe it's you're not cut out for this, or everyone can tell you're faking it. Speak it once in a whisper just to hear the shape. Feel the way it scrapes your throat, the way your chest tightens. Now translate with C2C, say, I'm noticing fear. Next rep, I'll name the signal and run my first breath sooner. I'll prepare one question I can ask if I stall. Hear how that lands in the body. Often the jaw unclenches, the shoulders lower. That relief isn't weakness. It's a signal that your brain recognizes a path. Midway through a winter week, in a quiet kitchen with the smell of citrus and dish soap, Nora reads a forwarded email full of red comments on her draft. Her critic sharpens its knives. Amateur hour. Why did you think you could lead this? She almost opens a job site out of habit. She catches herself and runs S3, then C2C signal, heat in cheeks, speed in chest, red comments. Story, I'm being exposed. Strategy 4-4-6 twice, then triage comments into fact versus preference. She whispers, not urgent, not dangerous, her anchor phrase. Then she translates the critic into a plan. Okay, coach voice, 3 factual fixes now. Ask for clarity on 2 preferences. Schedule 20 minutes to review tone tomorrow. She does the first fix, change a number. Confidence doesn't flood her. Something steadier does, momentum. Notice the weight of your tongue in your mouth. Notice the skin along your jaw where it meets your ear. If you lift your gaze 1 inch above the horizon of your screen, your breath often deepens. Test it. 1 inch, 1 breath. The room doesn't change, your access to it does. We'll expand S3 into a deeper practice called the signal versus story scan. Set a timer for 90 seconds. For the first 30, list only signals, body sensations and external facts. Warm hands, tight throat. Message from Sarah at 4:12 p.m. rain on the window. For the next 30, list the story lines exactly as they appear, preceded by I'm having the thought that I blew it, that they regret promoting me, that I'm slow. For the last 30, write one sentence that begins with strategy and ends with a concrete behavior you can do in 5 minutes. Strategy: reply asking for the agenda, block 30 minutes to outline, run the circuit breaker before the call. This drill teaches your reticular activating system to favor data and movement over catastrophe poetry. Another layer for your toolbox, the 2-switch model. Switch 1 is your physiology, switch 2 is your phrasing. When a trigger flips switch 1 up, you flip it down with breath, stillness, gaze, or cold water. When the critic flips switch 2 up into harsh absolutes, you flip it down with present tense process language. 2 switches, 1 self. Run them together and you feel the moment go from glossy and slippery to matte and grippable. In a glass elevator riding to the 21st floor, a founder named Eli feels a familiar electric buzz in his limbs before a pitch. His critic throws its lines: don't stumble, don't sweat, don't show nerves. He closes his eyes, drops switch 1 with 2-4-4-6 breaths, and keeps his gaze on the horizon line of the city, not the floor numbers. Then he flips switch 2 by feeding the coach a script. First 30 seconds, smile, pause, anchor, tell the problem in 1 sentence. Ask 1 question at minute 4. The doors open onto a carpet that smells like new glue. Eli's body still hums, but he has a map. He doesn't perform calm, he performs his plan. Take a sip of air and feel the exhale slide like warm water down the back of your ribs. Hear the faintest sound you can, the tick of a clock, the buzz of a light. Sense your feet. If they're cold, flex your toes inside your socks and notice the blood flow change. The body is your first instrument. Tune it, and the music of your mind follows. Let's build your inner coach switch with a ritual. You'll craft a 2-sentence cue you can use before high-friction moments. Sentence 1 names the skill, sentence 2 names the step. Today I'm training steadiness. First move is hands still, then 1 question. Or I'm practicing clean power. First move is 4-4-6 twice, then pick the inch. Write yours now. Say it once like you're speaking to a teammate you respect. Then put it somewhere your eyes will land. A sticky note on your laptop, the lock screen of your phone. Your RAS learns by repetition and placement. You're not reminding your brain what to think, you're reminding it where the path starts. A scene in a narrow hallway outside a classroom door, fluorescent hum, the chalk smell of old boards. Elena, a graduate instructor, hears 2 students laugh and catch her name. Her critic leaps. They don't take you seriously. She pauses with her hand on the doorknob, feeling the cool metal, feeling her heart knock once, then again. S3, hand cool, heart fast, voices, story, they're laughing at me. Strategy, 2 breaths, enter with 1 question. C to C, coach voice, lead with clarity. Today I'll write 3 bullets on the board and ask for volunteers. Inside, she prints the lesson title in sure strokes and asks, who wants to teach back the main concept from last week? The laughter turns into effort. No speech about respect. No war with the critic. Just a door, a breath, a plan. You might worry that softening your inner voice means lowering standards. The opposite. Coaches hold higher standards than critics because they plan for the next rep instead of punishing the last one. Punishment narrows your window, planning widens it. Standards can be strict and humane at once. When you miss, the coach says, "Reps are how we learn," then prescribes the smallest drill that would have made success more likely. Do that drill now while the moment is warm. Check your shoulders. They may have crept toward your ears while you weren't looking. Let them fall, heavy as wet towels. Let your jaw go slack for a second and feel how the throat widens, how breath lengthens on its own. There is room for you in this moment. We'll add a micro practice called the language swap. It's surgical and fast. Wherever your critic uses identity labels, lazy, weak, stupid, you swap in behavior and context. I'm lazy becomes I avoided the hard email after lunch. I'll send a 3-line draft now. Wherever your critic uses always never, you anchor it to time. I always overreact becomes yesterday I reacted fast. Today I'll run the sequence once. This isn't semantics, it's state management. Identity talk locks you in place. Behavior talk opens a door. In a metal chair at a neighborhood salon, clippers buzzing, the barber asks Ben about his job search. Ben says he struck out again and hears himself say, "I'm just not leadership material." The barber raises an eyebrow in the mirror. Ben catches the phrase, winces, smiles. "Try again," he tells himself, and swaps language. I froze in 2 interviews when they asked for conflict examples. I'll write one clean story and rehearse it with a friend. The mirror reflects the smallest quirk at the corner of his mouth. It's not triumph, it's relief that there's something to do. Another drill for stubborn critics, the 3-seat exercise. Picture 3 chairs. In one sits current you, sweaty-palmed, tight-chested. In the second sits future you, 3 months trained, steady and kind. In the third sits a wise other, someone you respect who would speak to you without venom. Rotate through the chairs for 90 seconds each. Current you gives the raw tape, fear, anger, shame. Future you offers a process and the next rep. Wise other distills it into one sentence you can carry into the room. This isn't pretend, it's perspective. The brain can rehearse calm the way it rehearses fear. If your critic grew up in a house of sharp tongues, this will feel like learning a new language as an adult. It is. Adults learn by usage, not by sentiment. So you will use the coach voice when your body is quiet, on purpose, so it's there when the storm hits. Read your inner coach cue before meetings. Write your strategy line at the top of a page. Whisper your anchor phrase in the bathroom before the interview. You're building a tongue that won't betray you. Let's return to the body for a minute. Slide your attention down the back of your neck as if you were pouring warm tea along the spine. Let the warmth stop between your shoulder blades. Breathe into that spot by imagining the inhale swelling your back ribs. Exhale and feel a small settling inside your pelvis, like a boat finding its berth. Confidence often lives low in the body, not high in the head. Find it by feel. A final story for today. Late evening, office mostly dark, the green exit sign casting a foggy glow. A product manager reads a terse message from a VP. "We're missing target activation by 12%. Why didn't growth own this earlier?" Her critic ignites. "You're over your head, they're onto you." Her thumb hovers above her keyboard. She notices the hum of the HVAC, the cool of the aluminium laptop against her wrists, the faint cinnamon of an old candle. S3 hum, cool wrists, message, heart rate up. Story, I'm being blamed. Strategy, breathe, compile facts, offer next step. C2C, coach voice, clear and steady. 1 paragraph, 3 facts, 1 proposal. She writes, "You're right about the 12%. We flagged friction at step 2 last sprint. Adoption stalled for users without verified phones. I can ship a 2-step fallback by Friday. Can we align on the threshold that counts as activated so we don't inflate the metric?" She reads it once. Shoulders drop. Send. She doesn't feel like a superhero. She feels like a person who can be with heat and still choose. Identity again, because this is the hinge. You are not the critic. You are the one who hears it and chooses a translator. You are the awareness that can lift a sentence out of mud and set it on rails. You are the writer of your next line. Say it with me, quietly and truthfully. I am the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself. Feel how that sentence creates a small, sunlit corner inside you. In that corner sits your coach, patient and precise. Your homework is to run the S3 scan 3 times tomorrow, on small triggers and one medium one. Log signal in concrete sensations and facts. Write story with I'm having the thought that. Then write one strategy line that ends with a behavior. Then pick one critic sentence you've believed for years and put it through C2C. Speak the coach version out loud before bed and again in the morning. If you forget, forgive, then do one rep anyway. Repetition writes circuitry. Circuitry predicts your next day. Feel the temperature on your cheeks. Feel your breath cool at the top lip and warm as it leaves. Let your hands get heavy in your lap as if you were setting down stones. Look at the nearest edge in the room, a shelf, a table, and trace it with your eyes. That edge is the line between reacting and training. You're already on the right side of it. Part 5 is about training under load, how to build steadiness not just in quiet rooms, but in noisy, fast, consequential ones. You've practiced interrupts and reframes. Now you'll engineer your environment and your calendar so calm becomes automatic. The two frameworks are the stress dosing ladder and the focus fence. The ladder teaches you to expose your system to measured difficulty so your window of tolerance widens instead of cracking. The fence protects your attention while you act, so the work itself becomes a form of regulation. You'll also keep a confidence ledger, a running record of evidence that you can handle more than your old story says. This is where confidence stops being a pep talk and becomes a training log. Start with the body so the mind can follow. Notice the air brushing the soft skin beneath your nose. Feel the chair support the base of your skull. Let your shoulders drop 1 centimeter and the back ribs expand like bellows. Hear the farthest sound you can, the distant hiss of traffic, a neighbor's radio, the click of your own tongue as you swallow. These are anchors. Each anchor returns blood to your prefrontal cortex and reminds your animal brain that you are here, not in the movie your thoughts are screening. The stress dosing ladder, SDL, works like this. Choose a trigger domain: public speaking, hard conversations, time pressure, feedback, uncertainty. Rank exposures from rung 1, the lightest lift, to rung 5, a meaningful challenge. Then dose your nervous system 1 rung at a time with a simple loop: preview, perform, park. Preview means you simulate the moment and rehearse your first 2 moves, the circuit breaker sequence and 1 anchor phrase. Perform is the exposure itself under a time box. Park is the deliberate end, 2 4 4 6 breaths, 1 line in the confidence ledger, no rumination. You don't white-knuckle the top rung on day 1. You inoculate your system with measured stress, recover, and record the win. Brains learn from pattern plus proof. A scene in a co-working space that smells faintly like espresso and warm laptops. Amir hates asking senior leaders for resources. His throat tightens, his hands sweat. Old story, I'm a bother. He builds his SDL. Rung 1, ask a peer for a small favor in person. Rung 2, ask his manager for 30 minutes to discuss priorities. Rung 3, present a 2-slide case to a friendly director. Rung 4, a 5-minute budget ask in a cross-functional meeting. Rung 5, a crisp 2-minute funding request to the VP with a clear trade-off. For each rung he runs preview, perform, park. Before rung 3 he stands at his desk, palms open, eyes on a fixed point, whispering, witness first, act second. He performs, voice steady enough. He parks, writing, I handled a director-level ask with a 2-slide case, heart rate high but manageable. 3 rungs later, the VP nods and says, send me the numbers. Did the fear vanish? No. But the window widened, and Amir trained a new reflex. Move anyway, then recover. Check your senses. Cool air on your cheeks, the pressure of fabric at your collarbones, the tick of a clock that you hadn't noticed until now. These details give your attention rails to run on when fear wants to skid. The focus fence keeps your effort inside a protected field so triggers can't hijack the middle of your work. It has 3 posts, a tight start, a narrow channel, and a clean stop. Tight start means you begin in a way that primes the nervous system, 2 rounds of 4-4-6, 1 glance at your inner coach cue, the first keystroke in 30 seconds. Narrow channel means you remove the nearest leaks. Phone in another room, inbox closed, 1 page visible, a timer set for 25 minutes. Clean stop means you end with park, breathe, log, and physically mark the end. A pen placed down, a laptop lid closed, a glass of water sipped with attention. The fence turns work from a battlefield into a practice ground. The body loves rituals. Rituals become shortcuts to steady. In a windowed office with a plant that needs water and the smell of dry paper, Helena is writing a proposal. Her trigger is the mid-draft stall. She opens tabs, chases research, loses the thread. She sets a focus fence. Tight start, she stands, shakes out her hands like she's flicking off water, then sits and runs 1-4-4-6. Narrow channel, full screen document, timer for 25, phone in a drawer, headline at the top. 1 paragraph on problem, 1 on stakes, 1 on plan. Clean stop, 2 breaths, 1 line in the ledger. I handled the itch to research, stayed in the paragraph. The paragraphs aren't perfect. They're done. Her nervous system gets a paycheck, completion. Science in a few lines you can use. Controlled stress exposure thickens pathways between your amygdala and prefrontal cortex. Practice restores top-down regulation faster. Ritualized starts and stops capitalize on context-dependent memory. Your body learns that certain cues equal begin and others equal safe to end, which lowers anticipatory anxiety. Writing micro-wins in the confidence ledger trains the reticular activating system to look for competence cues, not just threat. These are not motivational slogans. They are levers that change state and repeated trait. Now the confidence ledger itself. Keep it ridiculously simple, a running note titled ledger. Each entry starts with I handled, includes the trigger domain, the smallest wise action, and 1 body cue. I handled a last-minute change request by asking for the goal before promising, shoulders dropped. I handled the urge to over-explain by asking 1 question, heat cooled at my ears. That's it. Read the ledger aloud every night for a minute. This is not bragging, it's calibration. You are showing your brain what me under pressure looks like now. Notice your hands. If they're cool, rub your palms together until warmth blooms. Feel your breath skim the back of your throat. Pick a point in the room and rest your gaze there for 3 breaths, then soften your eyes and take in the entire field. Tunneling attention signals threat. Panoramic attention signals safety. Practice both on purpose, and you get to choose where to look. The SDL pairs well with a micro method called the 2-minute map. Before any rung, write a mini-map with 3 lines. Goal 1 sentence, first move 1 behavior, fallback what you'll do if you freeze. For Amir's rung 4 goal, ask for 5 design hours. First move 1 sentence case, then pause, fallback, anchor phrase, then ask a clarifying question. The map removes ambiguity, and ambiguity is gasoline for anxiety. A small story on a rainy Thursday. Mara is meeting her sister Lena to talk about their father's care. Family conversations are her oldest triggers. Her chest tightens before she's even in the cafe. She builds a relationship-focused SDL. Rung 1, name one feeling at dinner without explaining it. Rung 2, ask one curious question when she hears a sharp sentence. Rung 3, set a micro-boundary kindly. Rung 4, suggest a plan with options. Rung 5, hold her boundary when pushed. Before the cafe, she previews, hands still, anchor phrase, small step, then next. She walks in, smells espresso and wet wool coats and feels her heart quicken. When Lena says, "You always bail when it's hard," Mara names a feeling, "I'm feeling defensive and sad." Then she asks a curious question, which part felt like a bail? They talk. Later, when Lena nudges another weekend onto Mara, she sets a boundary. "I can't take both. I can do Saturday, or I can coordinate the nurse for next week." She parks afterward, hands wrapped around a hot mug, counting breath, then writes in her ledger on the bus, "I handled an old hook with one feeling word, one boundary, warmth in palms, breath steady by the end. That is training where it counts most." Return to your body. The chair's pressure beneath your sit bones, a subtle vibration in your forearms, the temperature at your temples. You're telling your brain, here is now the only place you can train. The focus fence requires an honesty move, a friction audit. Most reactivity isn't about willpower, it's about friction. Write down the 3 biggest leaks when you try to work. Your phone, other people's urgency, your own perfectionism. For each leak, adjust the environment by 1 notch. Phone goes in another room with ringer on for true emergencies. You wear a cheap watch so time isn't a screen. Other people's urgency meets an auto-response window. Got it, back to you at 2 p.m. with options. Perfectionism meets a constraint. First draft must be ugly and done in 20 minutes. You're not becoming a monk. You're making the wise action the easy action. A founder friend once showed me his focus fence in action. His team joked he became unreachable for 1 hour each morning. The truth, he became choosable. The hour had a ritual, black coffee, same playlist, notebook at a 45-degree angle, 2 breaths, then a 1-page, 2-minute map for the hardest task. The door stayed open. People knew the signal. If he wore the old baseball cap with the frayed bill, that hour was inside the fence. Emergencies only. The hat was silly and brilliant, a visual cue for his nervous system and his team. That hour made the rest of the day more breathable. Let's add a second drill for high-pressure performance, the activation arc. It's a preload routine that arcs your physiology into the zone instead of into panic. 5 steps in 2 minutes. Step 1, shake 30 seconds of loose shaking through limbs to burn jitter. Step 2, still hands resting, eyes on a distant point. Step 3, breathe 2 rounds of 4-4-6. Step 4, phrase, say your inner coach cue. Step 5, picture, imagine the first 30 seconds of action going right in boring detail. The chairs feel, the first sentence leaving your mouth, your hands steady. Then move. The arc isn't superstition, it's state setting. Do it before presentations, difficult calls, or crucial emails. Your animal learns. These cues mean we perform, not panic. You may worry that dosing stress will invite more of it. Remember, you already have stress. The ladder teaches your system how to metabolize it. Without dosing, your amygdala generalizes. Every similar cue becomes a siren. With dosing, your prefrontal cortex catalogs. This cue is loud but not lethal. We have a script. Pause and sip a little more air. Feel the exhale heavy on your tongue. Let your eyes close for 3 seconds, open them, and locate 3 blue objects in the room or in your memory. Color hunts widen attention and pull you back from the edge. For the next week, pair the SDL with a nightly ritual called the 90-second ledger read. Set a timer. Read your day's entries aloud slowly, like you're telling a friend what you managed. Finish with one sentence that starts with "because I handled," and tie it to identity. Because I handled the meeting with one clear ask, I trust myself more tomorrow. Identity is built through handled moments, not grand declarations. One more story, this time in a lab that smells like ethanol and warm plastic. Keiko, a research tech, is about to present preliminary results to a skeptical Pi. Old pattern, overqualify, rush, apologize for not having real data yet. She builds her ladder in miniature and runs the activation arc behind a closed supply closet door, palms tingling, the cool metal shelf at her shoulder blades. At the table, she sets a focus fence, phone in bag, paper notes only, first sentence written by hand at the top. When the Pi interrupts, "These sample sizes are meaningless." Keiko breathes once and runs a micro-boundary from part 3's triangle. Specific, "We have 8 samples per condition today." Kind, "We share your concern about power." Firm, "We are scheduled for 16 next week. I propose we withhold any pattern claims until then." The room's temperature lowers. Afterward, Keiko stands in the hallway where a faint draft chills her wrists and writes, "I handled a sharp interruption, one breath, one boundary, breath warmed by the end. That's a rung climbed." If there's a day you blow past your fence, skip the park, and fall into old spirals, don't waste training energy on self-punishment. Use the 24-hour salvage. Within a day, run any one drill you missed, even out of context. Breathe. Log a single "I handled" from something small, like holding your tongue in a short line. Salvage tells the nervous system, we repair. Confidence grows from repair more than from perfection. Return again to the sentence that sneaks identity into your bones. You are the awareness that chooses the dose. You are the one who builds the fence and returns to the work. You are not your next flood of adrenaline. You are the one who guides its arc. Whisper it once as a reminder, not a spell. I am the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself. Feel how that thought changes the angle of your head and the width of your chest. Your homework is specific. Pick one domain and build a 5-rung stress dosing ladder. For each rung, write a 2-minute map and schedule the exposure within the next 7 days. Create one focus fence ritual for your highest value task tomorrow. Tight start, narrow channel, clean stop. Begin your confidence ledger tonight with 3 "I handled" lines from today, even if they're tiny. Read them aloud. Let your nervous system file them as relevant. Then sleep like an athlete after practice, not because everything's solved, but because you trained. Feel your breath again, cool and then warm. Feel the chair, the floor, the room. The work ahead isn't dramatic, it's deliberate. Steady confidence is the residue of 100 small handled moments, stacked like bricks until you look up and realize you built a wall that weather can't blow through. Part 6 is about rewriting the trigger at its roots. You've learned to interrupt, reframe, dose, and fence. Now we'll use the brain's own editing window to soften old alarms so they stop sprinting across your present. The 2 frameworks you'll install are the memory recode protocol and the values to behavior bridge. The first leverages memory reconsolidation, those minutes when a recalled memory becomes malleable, to remove the sting from old scenes. The second turns your deepest reasons into tiny, visible actions so your days line up with who you say you are. Together, they don't just manage storms, they change the climate. Start by returning to your body so the mind will trust you. Notice the cool kiss of air at the rim of your nostrils. Feel the weight of your tongue resting against your lower molars. Let your shoulder blades slide down your back as if they were wet stones settling into a riverbed. Hear the faintest sound beyond the room, distant traffic, a bird, the soft whir of a vent. These are the doorways. Step through and you can work inside. The Memory Recode Protocol, MRP, has 4 beats: elicit, edit, embed, exit. Elicit means you deliberately call up a small slice of a triggering memory until your body gives you a real-time signal: tight jaw, hot ears, a thump under the sternum. Edit means you interrupt the body reaction with a paired safety signal: 4-4-6 breathing, a steady visual anchor, and an anchor phrase. While the memory is warm and pliable, you insert one corrective experience, new information, a boundary delivered, a resource present. Embed means you speak a short, sensory-rich line that links the old cue to the new outcome. Raised voice equals pause and question, not collapse. Exit means you come back to the room with a sensory check and do anything concrete: stand, sip water, to mark the close. Run MRP in 2-minute reps a few times a week, and you stop being hostage to a scene you keep replaying. There's real science under the poetry. When you recall a consolidated memory, you open a reconsolidation window, minutes where the memory is not fixed but editable. Pairing the recall with a prediction error, a new experience that contradicts the old helplessness, updates the network. You're not erasing history, you're updating the brain what this means for me now. That line is what rules your throat and hands during triggers. Change the line, change the reflex. Let's try a light pass. Bring to mind a safe-level memory, the kind that hooks you but doesn't drown you, a meeting where someone talked over you, a parent's sharp remark, a moment you stumbled in front of a room. Stop the tape at the most charged second. Notice one body signal. That's elicit. Now edit, palms open, eyes on a single object, 2 rounds of 4-4-6 and your anchor phrase: witness first, act second, or not urgent, not dangerous. While staying with a low simmer of sensation, insert one corrective frame. Picture your present-day self asking a clean question, setting a boundary, or simply staying in your seat with air moving smoothly through your nose. Embed. Whisper a new association out loud, specific and concrete. Raised voices now cue hands still and one question. Exit. Name 3 colors you see in the room. Stand, roll your shoulders once. That's 1 rep. Brains love reps. Feel the temperature along your cheeks, the air a degree cooler than your skin. Feel the chair hold the hinge of your hips. Let your gaze soften so you can take in the whole room without grabbing at any one object. This is how you keep the editing window kind. A story from an open-plan office with low-grey dividers and the smell of dry erase markers. Rowan, a designer, dreaded critique sessions. Years earlier, a creative director had dressed her down in front of a room. Since then, a throat squeeze and tunnel vision arrived whenever feedback began. She ran MRP the night before a review. Elicit. She pictured the room, the moment the director's voice had sharpened, the way the fluorescent lights flicked on her hands. Edit 2-4-4-6 breaths, eyes on the edge of her bookshelf, anchor phrase, small step, then next. She inserted a corrective frame from the present, herself saying, "Hold on, I'd like to understand the goal behind that note," and watching the room pause. Embed. Critique means clarify goal, not collapse. Exit. She rinsed her hands under cool water and wrote the line in her ledger. The next day, her body surged as usual for the first 40 seconds, then steadied a notch when she asked that exact question. The room softened. MRP didn't erase adrenaline, it taught her nervous system a new door. Now the values to behavior bridge, V to B when you're triggered. You don't need an essay on your values, you need a rail you can grab. V2B distills one value into two visible behaviors you can execute under heat. Pick the value, steadiness, courage, clarity, kindness, and define it in your body and your calendar. Body definition is a cue. Steadiness feels like weight in my hips and warmth in my hands. Calendar definition is a move. Clarity equals one question before any promise. Then you craft a bridge sentence you can carry into rooms. Because I value steadiness, my first move is hands still and a 4-4-6. Because I value clarity, I ask one question before I agree. You memorize the sentence so your mouth can say it while your brain catches up. A kitchen scene at 6:55 p.m., onions softening in a pan, steam fogging a window. Danny's partner drops a sharp line about money. If you didn't spend so much on nonsense, we wouldn't be tight. Old Danny would defend, audit receipts, turn dinner into court. V2B had taught her to translate value to move. She felt for hip weight and hand warmth, then said, I want clarity. What expense is worrying you most right now? The room changed. Not because the topic got easy, but because her values had feet. Pause and scan your senses again. Is there a tiny vibration in your forearms? Is your lower back cool against the chair? Can you hear something soft? Rubber soles in a hallway, the brush of fabric when you shift. The nervous system calms when you name what is true right now. We'll drill V2B with a 3-minute ritual called the morning bridge. Each morning, pick one value and write 2 lines. In my body, this value feels like, and in behavior, this value means I will. Keep the verbs painfully small. Kindness might be, I will look up from my screen when someone speaks. Courage might be, I will say, give me a minute, instead of saying yes immediately. Read the 2 lines out loud before your first meeting. Your reticular activating system will then tag chances to perform them as relevant. At night, log one I handled that ties to the value. Confidence grows when your day matches your mouth. Here's the briefest science to keep your skeptic on board. Values without behaviors stay in the default mode network as vague ideals. Mapping them to bodily cues and micro-actions recruits sensoromotor networks. This cross-network linkage makes the value retrievable under stress. In other words, you won't go fishing for integrity. While your amygdala is ringing, you'll feel weight in your hips and ask a specific question. That is what training looks like inside a skull. We'll weave MRP and V2B together in a longer rep. Think of a recurring trigger with a person you care about. Elicit gently. Recall the scene until your body lights up to a mild glow. Edit. 2-4-4-6 breaths. Eyes fixed on a doorknob. Anchor phrase. Insert a corrective frame that features your chosen value as behavior. If the value is respect, picture yourself saying, I want to understand. Can you say that another way? Embed a line linking cue to move. Sharp tone cues pause and ask. Exit with 3 colors and a small physical act. Stack 2 books. Straighten a pen. Then write your morning bridge for tomorrow. Respect feels like warmth in my cheeks and a low voice. Respect in behavior means one clarifying question before I defend. You are giving your brain a script and a stage mark. Feel the breath stroke the back of your throat. Feel the skin along your jaw where it meets your ear. Lift your gaze 1 inch above the screen and see if your inhale deepens. These are micro switches that change the chemistry enough to let you do the work. A story on a commuter train smelling of steel and wet wool. Ash receives a text from his older brother. Mom said you forgot the appointment again. Classic. The words hit an old bruise. Ash's scalp tingles, his hands go cold. He runs MRP on the spot. Elicit, the memory of being 14, scolded for a missed chore in front of guests. The room, the laughter, the collapse. Edit, gaze out the window at the streaking lights, 2446 breaths, anchor phrase, not urgent, not dangerous. He inserts a corrective frame, present day Ash texting a boundary with clarity. I booked the reschedule for Thursday, happy to coordinate updates but don't assume I dropped the ball. Embed, accusation cues fact plus boundary. Exit, he rubs his palms together until warmth returns. Then V2B, value of respect, behavior is, I will not litigate via group texts, I'll propose one clear channel. He writes, I handled family bait, warmth returned to hands, one boundary sent later. The train rattles on, the old bruise still exists, but it's no longer steering. You may worry that touching old scenes will drown you. Don't wade into floods. Use low-tide memories first. MRP is not exposure therapy for trauma. It's a light, deliberate update for everyday hooks. If a memory overwhelms you, you exit immediately. 3 colors, stand, water, call someone you trust. Training is not bravado, it's wise repetition. We'll add a micro-practice that stitches the day together, the night shift debrief. For 60 seconds before sleep, you run a soft MRP on the day's stickiest moment at low intensity. Elicit the headline image for 2 breaths. Edit with 1446 and your anchor phrase. Embed a single bridge sentence. Exit by feeling the mattress along your calves and the sheet's temperature on your forearms. Then sleep. The hippocampus will file your edited clip. The amygdala will have a slightly weaker case in the morning. Over a week, you feel the difference. Less 2 a.m. courtroom, more morning runway. Check in again with your senses. The air against your lips is cool. The exhale warms them. The line of your shirt sits across your collarbones. A shadow on the wall has a soft edge. Noticing makes room. One more framework to make V2B automatic in the heat, the cue card commitments. Write 3 little cards, digital or paper, each with 1 situation and 1 sentence. When criticized, I will ask 1 clarifying question. When my calendar overloads, I will propose 2 options. When I hear a sharp tone, I will lower mine. Review the cards once with your morning coffee, then once at lunch. You are teaching your RAs to treat those moments as déjà vu. When the cue appears, your mouth finds the sentence like a hand finds a familiar doorknob. A scene in a windowless conference room that smells like lemon cleaner. Gemma, head of ops, sits across from a vendor who keeps promising more than he can deliver. Her old pattern was to fume internally and sign anyway to save time. Today she carries a cue card. When promises balloon, I will ask for a timeline and test. The vendor's slide reads seamless integration. Gemma feels heat at her ears. Elicit in miniature. Edit with a breath and a soft gaze on the table's wood grain. Then the sentence, walk me through the integration timeline week by week and the test you'll run on our staging data. The room slows. Later, she writes in her ledger, I handled sales glitter, asked for the week by week, ears cooled. The card was small. The confidence was large. Sense your feet now, the pressure across the balls of the feet, the heels weight. Roll your shoulders once, slow, vertebra by vertebra. Let your breath lengthen on the exhale by a count of 1. You are not in a rush. A final story in a bright clinic hallway with posters about breathing and posture. Theo, a physical therapist, used to freeze when a patient said, "Are you sure this will help? The last guy couldn't." It touched an old doubt. He ran MRP a few mornings in a row with a mild image of a skeptical face, then inserted a corrective frame, present-day Theo saying calmly, "We'll measure progress every week. If this path misses, we'll adjust." He embedded doubt cues data plus plan. He paired V2B with the value of service. Body cue was a low, warm voice. behavior was explain the why in one sentence. In the Thursday session, a patient tested him with that exact line. Theo felt the heat rise, then found the warm voice. Fair question. We'll track range of motion and pain scores each Thursday. If we don't see a 5-degree gain in 2 weeks, we pivot. The patient nodded, the room exhaled, and Theo's hands were steady. Old doubt still whispered. It didn't drive. Identity again, because this is the thread through all of it. You are not your oldest scene. You are the awareness that can revisit it, offer it air, and choose a new move. You are the person who brings values out of frames and into fingers and voice. Say it quietly so your body hears it. I am the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself. Notice what shifts, maybe width across your collarbones, maybe calm behind the eyes. That space is your working studio. Your homework is precise. Choose one mild memory and run the memory recode protocol 3 times this week. Elicit for 2 breaths, edit with 2 4-4-6s and an anchor phrase. Insert a corrective micro scene that features a behavior you can do now. Embed 1 sentence. Exit with sensory detail. Keep it gentle. Then craft a 7-day values to behavior plan. 1 value per day, 2 lines each morning, body cue and micro behavior, and 1 ledger entry each night tying a handled moment back to that value. Add 3 cue card commitments and read them with your coffee. This is how you stop treating triggers like earthquakes and start treating them like weather you trained for. Feel the room again, the light on your knuckles, the temperature on your cheeks, the slow tide of your breath under your ribs. Tomorrow will bring old cues with new chances. You will meet them with air, with anchored eyes, with sentences you taught your mouth to say while your heart learned to stay. That's not pretending. That's practice. That's you becoming someone your nervous system can rely on. Part 7 is about what happens after you slip. Not if, when, even trained systems spike. You will send the too fast text, let your voice sharpen, overpromise, or ghost the hard question. Your old pattern would turn the moment into a courtroom and sentence you to days of rumination. Today you install a different sequence, a rapid reset that exchanges shame for skill and turns mistakes into fuel. 2 frameworks will carry you, the 4R reset, recognize, recenter, repair, recode, and the clean apology frame, impact, ownership, next step. You'll add a micro drill called the afteraction 5, so your nervous system learns to close loops instead of leaving them humming in the dark. First, come back to the body where the reset begins. Feel the cool air at the rim of your nostrils, the warmth of the exhale brushing your upper lip. Notice the weight of your sit bones, the way the chair holds the hinge of your hips. Let your shoulders fall a centimeter and your jaw unhook from your molars. Hear a fast sound, the dull throb of traffic or the soft whir of a vent. Each detail lowers the volume on the inner prosecutor so you can work. The 4R reset is simple enough to run in 2 minutes. Recognize means you name the moment without theater. I spiked. Not a character judgment, a state report. Recenter is physiology. 2 rounds of 4-4-6, palms open, eyes fixed for 3 breaths, 1 anchor phrase. Repair is relational. You deliver a clean apology or a boundary adjustment that restores trust. Recode is neural. You write 1 sentence linking the cue to a wiser move next time, then log it in the confidence ledger. The magic isn't cleverness, it's speed. You close the circuit before shame loops it into days. A scene at 9:12 a.m., hallway light cold and white, coffee gone bitter. Jonah is 5 minutes into a stand-up when his manager questions a deadline. Jonah's chest flashes hot, and he says too loud, if product would stop changing scope, we'd ship. The room stills. Old Jonah would feel the flush rise, then justify in Slack threads all morning. Train Jonah runs 4 hour recognize I spiked. Recenter 2446 breaths with eyes on the smudge on the glass door, anchor phrase in a whisper, witness first, act second. Repair with the clean apology frame. Impact, that landed as blame. Ownership, I reacted and made it harder to solve. Next step, let me restate, we need a scope lock by noon. I'll send a 1-page change protocol after stand-up. The room exhales. Recode, he types after the meeting. Scope change Q equals ask for lock plus propose 1-pager, and logs. I handled a public spike. Heat cooled by minute 3, 1-page sent. That entry buys him a future where his throat won't run the show. Check your body. There's a hum in your forearms, maybe a coolness behind the knees. The fabric along your collarbones has weight. The room smells faintly of paper, coffee, skin. You are in a real place, not inside the tape loop in your head. Let's detail the clean apology frame so it lives in your mouth. Impact names the effect without arguing intention. Ownership is the shortest possible I did. Next step is a specific behavior you will do now or soon. You do not add, but you do not litigate the past. Your nervous system likes the geometry, 3 straight lines, no spirals. When I cut you off, you shut down. Impact. I did that. Ownership. Next time I'll pause and ask you to finish. Right now, please continue. Next step. Clean apologies reduce prediction errors the amygdala hates. They say, we can expect repair here, which lowers collective cortisol and returns blood to the parts of the brain that can actually collaborate. A kitchen scene at 7:14 p.m., garlic in oil, a pan hissing. Serena hears her partner say, "You're always on your phone," and she snaps. "Maybe if you didn't dump chores on me, I wouldn't be." The room curdles. She feels heat flood her face and a pressure in her throat. Old Serena would sulk and scrub pans too hard. Trained Serena steps to the sink, runs cool water over her wrists, and breathes 446 twice while watching the tiny bubbles cling to her skin. "I spiked," she says, then the clean apology frame, "That landed as a slap impact. I did it. Ownership. I want to hear your point. First, I'm going to put my phone on the counter for dinner and we'll list chores after we eat. Next step." Her partner's shoulders drop. Dinner survives. Later, recode. Phone job Q equals put phone down plus schedule chore talk. Logged with warmth return to hands, breath steady by dishes. Science, brief and practical. Shame is a social alarm that often backfires. It narrows attention to self-threat and fuels avoidance. Quick ownership with a concrete next step reduces uncertainty in both parties and reactivates task-positive networks. Pairing that with breathwork flips vagal tone, and your prefrontal cortex gets back online. You're not excusing behavior, you're creating conditions where better behavior is possible immediately, not after a week of self-hate. Install the Afteraction 5. It's a 2-minute script that teaches your system to close loops without drama. Line 1, what happened in facts? Line 2, where did my state shift in my body? Line 3, which tool did I use or skip? Line 4, what's the smallest repair I can make? Line 5, what sentence will I tag this with for next time? Say them out loud once. The mouth makes memory sticky. Then act. No journaling spiral, no 1,000-word confession, just 5 lines and a move. Pause and feel your fingers where they meet your palms, the coolness of the air along your cheeks. Choose a point across the room, a door frame, a book spine, and steady your eyes there for 1 slow breath. The vestibular system tells your mind, the world is stable, you can be too. Here's a story in a fluorescent-lit conference room where dry erase fumes sharpen the air. A client meeting goes sideways. An engineer named Priam hears a snide comment and goes for the jugular with a sarcastic line that draws a laugh and a wince. He sees his PM's mouth flatten. In the hallway, the old script would begin. Stu justify, send apology emails with a dissertation of reasons. He runs 4R recognize, spike. Recenter 2 low breaths, palms warm against his thighs, anchor phrase, not urgent, not dangerous. Repair, he finds his PM. That dig landed poorly, impact, I made it ownership. I'll send a corrective email with what we can do by Friday and I'll stick to solutions for the rest of the day. Next step. He writes the email in 3 short lines, no performance. Recode. Sarcasm Q equals switch to solution plus timeline. Logged with jaw unclenched, chest pressure down. At 4 p.m., the client approves the plan. Priam didn't dazzle anyone. He made the room safe again. That is leadership. We'll add a companion tool for when the other person spikes, the rubber guard. It's a 2-sentence boundary that catches heat without throwing it back. Sentence 1 is absorbent and specific. I hear the urgency. The always language makes it hard for me to help. Sentence 2 is directional and small. Tell me the one part that matters most, and I'll address that. Rubber guard pairs with 4R's recenter when you're on the receiving end. It keeps your window open long enough to aim everyone at a workable inch. Check the inside of your mouth. Feel the weight of your tongue. Notice if your teeth are touching. Let them part. Exhale slowly and imagine your breath brushing the back ribs. Sensory anchoring is how you get your hands back on the wheel. When a spike damages trust more than a hallway apology can handle, you'll use the 24-hour repair. It has 3 acts. Act I, pause the loop in the moment with a brief clean apology frame. Act II, within a day, follow with a written or spoken repair that includes a changed behavior. Act III, in your own time, recode with a cue card commitment. Example, I cut you off in stand-up, that shut you down, impact. I did that, ownership. From now on I'll slow down and ask you to finish. I'll follow up after this next step. Then within 24 hours, I'm sorry I cut you off yesterday. I'm experimenting with pausing before I respond. I put a sticky note on my laptop that says finish to remind me I'd like to hear your full point. Finally, your cue card. When eager to respond, I will write the word finish before I speak. This is not theater, it's pattern installation. A mid-morning anecdote in a bustling cafe, cinnamon and espresso thick in the air. A freelancer named Isha gets an email from a small client accusing her of ghosting. The truth, she missed a reply window while juggling 2 deadlines. Old reflex, defend hard and list workload. She catches the impulse like a fish tugging the line. 4R recognize, spike. Recenter, eyes on the wet, ring the mug left, 2-4-4-6 breaths. Repair using clean apology. You were waiting on me and I went silent, impact. That's on me, ownership. I'm delivering the draft by 5 p.m. and adding a twice-weekly status until delivery. Next step. She sends it, then recode, silence cue status plus time-bound promise. She writes a cue card. When late, name it and propose cadence. Later, the client replies, appreciate the clarity. The body learns, repair beats defense. Another science bridge. The brain's prediction machinery expects either punishment or avoidance after a mistake. You are training a third path, fast repair and forward motion. Over time, your RAS flags opportunities to repair as relevant rather than embarrassing. That shift doesn't just calm you, it builds your reputation as someone who can be trusted when the room is hot. You might worry that apologizing makes you look weak. Only messy apologies do. Clean apologies paired with changed behavior signal strength because they reduce the energy the group spends on uncertainty. People stop tiptoeing. Meetings get shorter. Projects move. Your calm becomes contagious. Let's practice the After Action 5 on a small slip from this week. Say the lines, answer quickly. What happened in facts? I replied with a sharp sentence in chat. Where did my state shift in my body? Heat to the cheeks, jaw tight. Which tool did I use or skip? Skipped breath, forgot the anchor phrase. What's the smallest repair I can make? DM with clean apology. Write a one-line clarifying question. What sentence will I tag this with? Chat heat Q equals breath plus question first. Now do the repair. Then stand, stretch your hip flexors, and sip water to mark the end. Feel air move along the back of your throat. Let your gaze drift a few inches above the horizon of your screen and notice if your inhale deepens. Listen for one small sound you missed, the faint tick of something cooling, the rustle of your shirt when you shift. These are small levers that give you back the room. A field story in a hospital corridor where hand sanitizer smells sharp and carts squeak. A resident named Layla snapped at a nurse during a code. The patient stabilized, but the team's faces were stiff. Layla's old training said, "Nothing else matters, outcomes excuse tone." Her new training said, "Repair is part of outcomes." She found the nurse in a quiet alcove. I raised my voice and made it harder to hear me. Impact. That's on me. Ownership. Next time I'll keep my voice low and say names. Right now, thank you for catching the med dose. Can we run the debrief together at noon? Next step. The nurse nodded, shoulders lowering. At noon, Layla opened the debrief with a clean apology again and a simple plan. 2 people talk at a time, names before orders. She logged, "I handled a high-heat repair, voice cool by noon. The hospital didn't change. The team did." We'll pair 4R with a micro drill called the micro-closure minute for rumination that lingers. Set a timer for 60 seconds. Write a one-sentence fact, a one-sentence feeling, a one-sentence repair or lesson, and a 3-word identity cue. I missed the deadline by 2 hours. I feel embarrassed and tense. I will send a new ETA before I start and set a timer at the halfway mark. I'm a steady learner. Read it once aloud, then close the tab. Ruminations crave open loops. Micro-closures tie them. Check your hands again. Warm or cool, heavy or restless. Place one hand on your sternum and one on your belly. Breathe so the lower hand rises more than the upper for 2 breaths. Feel the exhale leave like a small tide. The animal calms, the editor returns. Sometimes the repair is with yourself. You promised a morning run and slept in. You said you'd speak up and stayed quiet. The clean apology still applies inward. Impact. I broke a promise to myself. Trust dropped. Ownership. I did that. Next step. Tonight I'll lay out my shoes and run 1 kilometer. I'll rebuild gently. Then recode. Missed rep Q equals shrink target plus set out gear. You are not a project to scold. You are an athlete to train. A small story at a desk with a plant whose leaves droop and a sticky note that reads finish. Across town, Armin tells himself he'll send the tough email by noon. Noon passes. Old Armin would avoid it until the shame is heavy enough to immobilize. Trained Armin runs an inward 4R recognize, avoidance spike. Recenter, 2 breaths, eyes on the plant's shadow, anchor phrase, small step, then next. Repair self. I missed my window, that cost me peace. Impact. I did that. Ownership. Next step, I'll send a 3-line version now. He writes and sends the imperfect, clear email. Recode. Delay Q equals 3 lines now. The plant still droops. Armin waters it, then reads his confidence ledger aloud before bed. The day becomes a rep, not a referendum on his worth. Identity again, because this is where you cache the lesson. You are not your last spike. You are the awareness that recognizes, recenters, repairs, and recodes. You are the person who can turn a bad minute into a better hour. Whisper it so your body hears. I am the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself. Feel the width across your collarbones, the slow, steady weight in your hips. That feeling is not a mood, it's a promise you are keeping. Your homework is tangible. Print or write the 4-hour reset where your eyes land. Recognize, recenter, repair, recode. For the next 3 days, run it once on purpose for a small slip, and once when the world forces your hand. Use the clean apology frame at least twice, one outward, one inward. End your day with the after-action 5 for the stickiest moment, then close with the micro-closure minute. Add each recode sentence to your cue cards and read them with your morning coffee. Tomorrow will still bring friction. You'll bring repairs that build trust faster than your old flare-ups burned it. Feel the room again, light on your knuckles, temperature on your cheeks, the subtle pull of gravity along your spine. The next time you hear yourself snap, you'll know what to do in 2 minutes or less. That's not luck. That's training. That's you being someone your system can lean on when it matters. Part 8 is about the room, not the furniture, the field between people where signals ricochet and your nervous system decides whether to shrink or expand. You've trained your inner circuits. Now you'll train how you shape collective chemistry without performing, posturing, or disappearing. 2 frameworks carry this work: the social temperature gauge and the ground guide give protocol. The gauge lets you read a room's heat in seconds and pick the move that cools or warms with intention. Ground guide gives you a simple structure for presence under pressure. You ground your body, guide the direction, and give one clear next step. Layer in 2 micro drills, the 2-beat pause and the 30% voice rule, and your steadiness becomes contagious, not performative. Begin by finding your own temperature. Sense the coolness at the rim of your nostrils, the faint warmth of the exhale on your upper lip. Feel the weight of your sit bones and the pull of gravity down the back of your ribs. Notice one far sound, the thinnest thread of traffic, the sigh of an air vent, the low murmur of a neighbor. These are your thermostats. You touch them and your system recalibrates by a degree or 2, which is all a room often needs. The social temperature gauge is a 3-color read you can do in a breath. Blue is lethargic, low energy, eyes down, slow replies. Yellow is alert and workable, attention up, curiosity alive, some friction but no burn. Red is hot, interruptions, speed, tight jaws, pressure in voices. You don't judge the color, you choose a move. In blue you add spark, a question with stakes, a time box, a physical shift from sitting to standing. In yellow you preserve flow, narrow focus, name the goal, pick the inch. In red you cool, lower tone, lengthen exhale, insert a boundary or a pause. The gauge is not strategy theater. It's a way to keep more of the prefrontal cortex online for everyone. A Tuesday afternoon scene. Glass-walled meeting room, 2 bright lights, the soft squeak of dry erase markers. 4 teams are arguing features. Blue meeting 2 weeks in a row had produced sleepy status updates and no choices. Today the pendulum swung red. Voices overlapped. A senior engineer said, "This is pointless," and pushed back from his chair. Your chest tightened. Old you would pick a side or withdraw. Trained you glanced at the gauge, red. You grounded first, palms flat on the table, 2 4-4-6 breaths while keeping your gaze on the wooden edge, your anchor phrase low, witness first, act second. Then you guided with one line that changed the geometry. Let's pick the smallest choice that moves us by 5 p.m. or B for the next sprint. Finally, you gave a next step. We'll test the loser with 10 users in parallel. The heat dropped a notch. People stopped aiming at each other and aimed at the inch. That's the room, learning your steadiness by feel. Check your senses again, the texture under your left thumb, the temperature skimming your cheeks, the way your shirt touches your collarbones. These details place you in now, which is the only tense where leadership happens. Ground guide give works because your nervous system organizes around sequence. Ground returns the animal to safe enough. Guide sets a heading in simple words. Give installs behavior immediately so attention can relax. You can run it in 12 seconds in a hallway or over 20 minutes in a boardroom. It is also how you de-escalate at home when a conversation tilts. Ground with breath and posture. Guide with one clear intention. Give with a tiny action, a time, a text, a question, a boundary. In a kitchen with the smell of cumin and lime, your partner says, "You never listen when I talk about work," and a pressure builds in your throat. Old pattern, defend, cross-examine, retreat. You run ground guide give. Hands on the counter, feel the cool stone, 2, 4, 4, 6 breaths. Then guide, I want to understand and not fix yet. Give, tell me the headline in one sentence, I'll repeat it back. The room's temperature drops from red to yellow. You didn't give in, you gave direction. The 2-beat pause is your social clutch. Before you answer a hot question or a baiting remark, inhale, wait 2 heartbeats, then speak at the bottom of the exhale. Those 2 beats let your amygdala's urgency wash past the microphone. People feel the difference. You sound less like a flinch and more like a decision. Pair it with the 30% voice rule. Reduce your volume and speed by roughly a third when rooms go red. Slower cadence forces clarity. Lower volume invites listening instead of contest. This is not meekness. It's acoustics for authority. Science briefly. Groups synchronize physiology. In hot rooms, heart rates rise in sync, attention narrows, and language roughens. One person who lowers their respiratory rate and voice can entrain others downward by mimicry and mirror neuron effects. The prefrontal cortex likes pace and predictability. A 2-beat pause gives both. You are not hypnotizing anyone. You are giving their brains a beat to choose with you. A story at 9:58 a.m. Quarterly review, 12 faces in a rectangle of windows. Monica, VP of Sales, is asked on slide 2 why churn spiked in the Midwest. She feels the familiar fizz in her forearms and a heat at her ears. Old Monica would fill the air with speed. Trained Monica runs the 2-beat pause and 30% voice. She grounds, palms touching the table's edge, eyes on a point in the wood grain, and lets 2 beats pass. She guides 2 drivers, onboarding gaps and competitor promos. She gives, "We're piloting a 24-hour callback in those zip codes this week. I'll bring the Delta next Tuesday." The CFO's shoulders lower, questions sharpen, the room moves. Monica didn't scare anyone into silence. She gave the field a stable floor. Feel your own floor, the chair receiving your weight, the small stretch of skin between thumb and forefinger, the breath stroking the back of your throat. Each sensation is a line you hold when rooms wobble. Rooms also wobble because of fuzzy rolls. You'll add a micro framework called the turn-taking loop. It's 3 sentences you use when a meeting spirals or a dinner conversation becomes a tangle. Here's the question we're answering. Here's the order we'll go in. Here's the time each of us gets. You can speak it with warmth and humor. The loop cools red rooms by installing rails and wakes blue rooms by asking for turns. When you use it twice, people start using it for you. In a narrow, bright classroom that smells like old varnish, a student blurts, "This assignment is impossible," and others nod. The teacher's throat tightens. She grounds with a slow exhale, guides with a reframe. The hard part is the first paragraph and gives the loop. "We'll go in rows. Everyone reads their first sentence only." Blue becomes yellow. The room writes. The teacher goes home tired and grateful that she did not try to out-argue a 14-year-old's limbic system. Scan your senses. The light on the wall is cooler than on your hands. You can hear something tiny, the scratch of fabric when you shift. You can feel your jaw release a millimeter when your tongue rests behind your top teeth. That millimeter is leadership. We'll train presence under interruption using the intercept and pivot. Intercept is a boundary that acknowledges and narrows. Jumping in, hold that I want to finish this thought so we don't lose the thread. Pivot directs the energy, then I'll take your point. Most people either fight the interruption or collapse into it. You'll accept the energy without ceding authorship. Intercept and pivot pairs with ground, guide, give. You ground your body, guide by naming the thread, and give the next turn. A startup all hands with folding chairs and buzzed coffee energy. You're presenting a roadmap when a founder interjects. What about AI for this? Your stomach drops. You intercept gently. Love that, and I want to finish the risk section. Give me 30 seconds so the trade-off is clear. You pivot. Then we'll spend 5 minutes on the AI path. The room keeps its spine. After you log, I handled a founder pop-in. Intercept, pivot, breath steady by slide 4. The gauge moved from red back to yellow because you held the line without swinging a sword. Science again, because belief matters under heat. The brain's salience network tags novelty and threat with the same highlighter. Interceptions that are warm and specific de-threaten novelty by restoring a map. First this, then that. Your tone and pace become the map. People follow maps in storms. Add a drill called the social scan and plant. Enter a room and scan for 3 signals: posture, pace, volume. Then plant one consistent signal of your own. Open palms on the table or a steady notebook posture with shoulders down or a low, even voice. You are a tuning fork. Don't clatter, strike once. Let the signal carry. The room doesn't always change. It changes more often than you expect, and when it doesn't, your nervous system still stays inside its window because you kept your ritual. Notice your eyes. Let them focus on a point across the room, then soften to take in the periphery. Narrow focus for detail, wide for context. Switch deliberately twice. Rooms require both. An anecdote: in a windowless operations center with a wall of monitors and a scent of rubber mats. A logistics lead named Rafi is managing a delay cascade. Drivers call in, screens flash orange, a supervisor paces. Red. Rafi grounds with 2-4-4-6s and plants his signal, palms flat, voice 30% slower. He guides with one sentence. We prioritize perishables, then hospital routes. He gives the next step. Dispatch, text the new order, ops, call the 3 hospitals. Someone objects. He intercepts, pivots, proceeds. 10 minutes later, the room is still hot, but coherent. Rafi doesn't feel heroic. He feels like a stone in a river the water must go around. That is what the room felt too. Rooms at home matter as much. Family dinners, group chats, WhatsApp threads, they all have temperatures. You'll carry the gauge into your phone with the asynchronous temperature check. Before you answer a heated text, you label it red, yellow, or blue. Red texts get a 2-beat pause, a 30% voice translation into typed words, and a ground guide gives structure. I want to understand. Can we pick one topic? I'll call it 6. Yellow gets a direct answer with a next step. Blue gets a spark, a question, and a time box. Your thumbs become part of your nervous system, not the other way around. Check your body now. Is there a cool line of air on your lower lip? Are your hands warm or cool? Do your shoulder blades feel like stones or wings? Name one sensation. Naming is a kind of ground. Sometimes you enter rooms you can't cool alone. That's when you use the exit with dignity move from earlier parts, braided with ground, guide, give. You ground, you guide with a boundary sentence, and you give a clear future action. I want to do this well and the room's too hot. I'm stepping out for 5, and then we'll choose between A and B, then you exit and actually come back with the choice. The dignity is in the return. We'll tie all this to identity with the presence contract. It's a one-sentence agreement you make with yourself about the kind of presence you bring. I am a calm conductor. I set tempo, not tension. Or, I am steady water. I make jars of sand clear. You read it before big rooms. You write it at the top of your notes. You make it small enough to say under your breath when the projector won't connect or someone raises their voice one notch too high. A story in a municipal hearing room with hard chairs and flickering fluorescence. A neighborhood group is arguing about a proposed shelter. It is read in minutes. Voices sharpen, eyes narrow. Someone shouts from the back. An organizer named Talia holds her presence contract in the margin. Calm conductor. She grounds, both feet flat, shoulders heavy. She guides. We are answering one question tonight. Where to start in the next 30 days. She gives 2 mics, 1 minute each, pro and con alternating, then we pick 3 volunteers for a working group. She uses the 30% voice rule and the 2-beat pause after a heckle. The room does not become a spa, it becomes barely workable. Afterward, an elder says, "You kept us from breaking." Talia writes in her ledger, "I handled a civic boil, feet flat, alternating mics, breath warm by the end. Confidence doesn't roar there, it hums." Notice the breath on the back of your tongue. Notice the line of light on your knuckles. Notice the slight sway of your torso even when you sit still, a ship at anchor. That sway is your nervous system's way of balancing. Respect it, work with it. Underneath these scripts lives a simple truth. People regulate people. When you practice the gauge and ground, guide, give, you become a regulator without becoming a parent. You are not responsible for everyone's state. You are responsible for your signal. Clarity spreads faster than charisma. Charisma fades when rooms heat. Clarity holds. You might worry that lowering your volume will make you ignorable. It won't if you pair it with specificity. We need alignment, said at half volume, evaporates. We will choose A or B in 6 minutes, said slowly, plants a flag. You might fear that pausing makes you look unsure. It doesn't if your next sentence moves the room. You will see this when you try it. Your body will argue that it needs to rush to look competent. Your results will convince it otherwise. Let's rehearse. Picture your next hot room. A demo with senior leaders, a family budget talk, an exam review. Name the color, blue, yellow, or red. Ground 2 breaths, palms open, eyes on one point. Guide, write 1 sentence that names the smallest useful question. Give, write 1 visible next step with a time. Add the 2-beat pause and the 30% voice rule as the transport for your words. Now imagine the first 30 seconds going right. The chair's pressure under you, the first sentence leaving clean, the nod that follows. You're not courting delusion. You're staging your nervous system for execution. Another small story, because stories teach muscle. A nurse manager named Olma rounds on a unit after a difficult night. Blue, heads low, charts late. She grounds with breath and a hand on the rail of a crib that smells of sanitized plastic and cotton. She guides with 1 sentence. We're going to finish the high-risk meds by 10. She gives steps. I'll take rooms 12-14 with you. Call pharmacy for the missing bag. Charge will cover phones for 20 minutes. The room warms to yellow. Olma doesn't lecture resilience, she lends it. At noon she's tired but less brittle because lending didn't cost her her center, it came from it. Final practice for today, the cadence reset. When a room sprinted, you will be tempted to sprint into your next thing. Instead, you will stand, feel your feet, run 1 round of 4-4-6, and write 1 line in the ledger that begins with "I handled." Then you will walk to your next thing 10 seconds slower than your habit. That small difference tells your animal that you are not prey. Over weeks, those 10 seconds compound into a posture. Identity again, because presence is an identity habit. You are not the loudest voice or the quietest. You are the awareness that sets tempo. You are the one who senses color and chooses a move. You are the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself, and you become, in time, the weather the room prefers: clear air, steady breeze, a path of least resistance toward the next wise inch. Say the sentence quietly so your body owns it. I am the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself. Feel how your chest widens and your jaw softens. That is presence you can carry. Your homework is lived, not theoretical. Before your next 3 gatherings, name the room's color. Run ground guide, give in 1 sentence. Use the 2-beat pause before your first answer and the 30% voice rule for any red moment. Plant 1 signal, palms open, low shoulders, steady gaze, and keep it for 10 minutes. After, log 1 line in your confidence ledger, tying your move to the gauge. Read the ledger aloud before bed so your RAS tags this leadership as relevant. The rooms in your life will still wobble. You'll wobble less, and when you do, you'll have rails. Feel the air on your cheeks, the weight in your hips, the cool at your upper lip. Hear the far sound. You have enough to walk into the next room as someone steady, not because you never shake, but because you know what to do with the shaking. Part 9 is about fuel, not motivation, the biochemical fuel your brain uses to pay for attention, courage, and choice. You've built tools for heat and rooms. Now you'll make steadiness easier by adjusting inputs you can control. We'll install 2 frameworks, the Attention Nutrition Plan and the Dopamine Gentleman's Agreement. The first treats what you consume: news, noise, notifications, even the way you breathe, as a diet that shapes your reticular activating system's cravings. The second renegotiates with your dopamine system so you stop swinging between numbing and overdrive and instead ride a steady wave you can surf. This isn't lifestyle cosplay, it's training your nervous system to make the wise move cheaper. Start by returning to the simplest input. Air. Feel the cool kiss at the rim of your nostrils, the warmer brush on your upper lip as you exhale. Notice the weight of your tongue and the slow pull of gravity down the back ribs. Hear 1 fast sound, the hum of a vent, a car passing like distant surf. These signals tell your brain, I am in a body in a room, not inside a feed. When the animal knows where it is, it stops clawing for false certainty. The Attention Nutrition Plan has 3 moves you'll repeat daily: prime, portion, and protect. Prime means you feed your RAS 1 clear intention before anyone else's agenda enters your eyes. Portion means you put friction around high-stimulus inputs so they stop hijacking your baseline. Protect means you anchor the day with 2 sensory rituals that return you to embodied attention when noise rises. The science is simple. Your RAS looks for what you told it mattered moments ago. Your dopamine neurons spike at novelty and prediction errors. Your prefrontal cortex fatigues under unbounded choice. So you'll prime the filter, portion the spikes, and protect the cortex. Here's how prime looks in a lived morning. Before you see a screen, you speak your inner coach cue and write 1 sentence that names the day's North Star inch. Not a catalog, a compass. Today I train steadiness. First move is hands still, then ask 1 question in the 2 p.m. review. That sentence is a seed in the RAS. It will recognize chances to execute it. If screens appear before the seed, algorithms plant their own. You've felt the difference. 1 news alert and your mind becomes a siren farm. Priming is not virtue, it's mechanics. Portion means you install tiny barriers so novelty doesn't own you. You move your phone's loudest apps to the second screen and bury them in a folder. You treat news like caffeine, one measured serving at a chosen time, not an IV drip. You batch messaging into windows so you can actually work between them. You let notifications die unless they're for humans you'd leave a meeting to help. None of this is a manifesto. It's building a kitchen where the healthiest snack is the easiest grab. Protect means you carry two rituals like talismans. One is daylight on your retinas early in the day, 2 minutes outside or by a window, eyes relaxed, breath slow. Light tells your suprachiasmatic nucleus to set clocks that regulate energy and mood. The second is a closing circuit at day's end, 2-4-4-6 breaths, one line in the confidence ledger, one sentence that shrinks tomorrow's first inch. You are teaching your nervous system that there's a beginning and an end. Brains love edges. Picture a Thursday morning in a small apartment that smells like coffee and laundry. You used to wake into a feed, messages, headlines, other people's alarms. Today you prime. You sit on the edge of the bed, feet cool against the floor, and whisper, "Calm is clean power." You write 1 inch, clarify scope on the client demo by noon. You step to the window and let daylight hit your eyes while you breathe. 10 minutes later, the phone lights up. Portion kicks in. You check messages at 9, 1, and 5. You leave the rest in their corral. Protect arrives at night when the overhead light goes warm and your shoulders feel like wet towels sliding down your back. You breathe, you log, you close. Your life doesn't become an idyll. It becomes intelligible to your animal. Scan your senses again. The way fabric sits across your collarbones, the slight coolness behind your knees, the tiny click when you swallow. Each detail drops novelty's grip by a degree and gives your prefrontal cortex oxygen the way a window opens a stale room. A story where this mattered. Mikkel, a customer success lead, lived glued to the ticket queue, doom scrolling between calls. His window of tolerance shrank by lunchtime. He installed the plan. Prime happened before shoes. Today I'm practicing clarity. First move is what outcome are you after? Portion meant he set 3 ticket blocks with a 15-minute message window between them, Slack muted outside those windows. Protect meant he took 90 seconds after each block for daylight and 2 breaths by the window that looked onto a brick wall, still light, still breath. 2 weeks in, he found himself less hooked by Caplock's emails. Same customers, different chemistry. Now the dopamine gentleman's agreement, because fuel without an agreement becomes a binge or a drought. Your dopamine system isn't evil, it's a compass for novelty, reward, and effort. Left untrained, it learns that the fastest, loudest hit wins. Trained, it learns to link dopamine to effort and recovery rather than to infinite scroll. The agreement has 3 clauses: earn it, even it, ease it. Earn it means you tie your treats, the podcast, the short video, the sweet, after a slice of effort, not before. This is not moralism, it's Pavlov. You're wiring your brain to release more dopamine in anticipation of effort because effort predicts reward. You answer 1 hard email before you open the thread you enjoy. You write 3 sentences before you sip the fancy coffee. You take a brisk 5-minute walk before you open your favorite feed. The pattern says, we move, then we enjoy. Over time, the enjoyment begins to prime the movement. Even it means you smooth spikes and troughs. If you've had a day of high novelty, back-to-back meetings, sharp feedback, frantic planning, you choose a low novelty evening, paper book, low light, a walk, a pot simmering. If you've had a slow blue morning, you add a spark midday, a call with a friend who makes you laugh, a song that lifts cadence, a small challenge you can finish. This is homeostasis with taste. Your animal appreciates the courtesy. Ease it means you choose the gentlest switch away from numbing. When you feel the algorithm's tractor beam, you don't rip the phone from your hand with shame. You put it down face down, stand, and let cold water run over your wrists for 20 seconds. You breathe 4-4-6 once and ask, what is the smallest wise action that would make me proud in 5 minutes? Then you do that. The cold water is not a gimmick. It signals safety and resets arousal. Your system learns the path out of the slot machine. Science note, short and usable. Dopamine is about wanting more than liking. Fast, unpredictable rewards, feeds, slots, rapid-fire texts teach your neurons to expect spikes, which lowers baseline motivation for steady work. When you pair dopamine with effort and recovery, baseline creeps up. Small wins feel tangible again. Light sets circadian clocks. Cold water tickles receptors that tell the vagus nerve to ease. Breath shifts code 2 and slows heart rate variability into a range where choices return. This is plumbing, not poetry. Notice your breath slip along the back of your throat. Notice the weight across your sit bones. Let your gaze land on one steady point, then soften to the periphery. Your animal is listening. A scene at 11:23 p.m., blue light on a face, thumb flicking, bed warm, brain buzzing. Leon tells herself she'll scroll for 2 minutes and surfaces 40 later, chest tight, mind wired. The agreement steps in the next night. Earn it, she writes one paragraph of the email she's been avoiding, then allows herself 5 minutes of the feed. Even it, the day had been read. She lowers novelty with low lamp light and paper. Ease it when the tractor beam tugs, she places the phone face down and runs cold water over her wrists. Then she asks, what's the 5-minute move? She stretches, lays out clothes for morning, and reads 2 pages. A week later, she still scrolls. The scrolls are shorter, the sleep is deeper, and the morning is less like clawing out of a hole. You'll weave the plan and the agreement into a day that feels like you built it. Morning priming sets the headline. Midday portioning keeps your window intact. Evening protect closes loops. Earn it pairs effort and pleasure so your brain doesn't hoard. Even it smooths your arc. Ease it gives you exits you can actually use. When you forget, you run a 4-hour reset on the numbing itself. Recognize the spiral, recenter with breath and cold wrists, repair with one tiny action, recode with a cue card. Scroll cue equals water plus 5-minute move. Pause and test the simplest lever. Step your eyes away from your screen and look at the farthest wall. Let the breath lengthen on the exhale by a count of 1. Sense your hands, warm or cool. This is what it feels like to adjust state without a device doing it for you. A small founder story. Gyro ran a cafe and lived in permanent yellow-red. Every lull he filled with espresso and headlines, every spike he smothered with sugar or slack. He started the plan on a dare from himself. Prime became a walk to the corner where morning light pooled and a sentence in a waitress's notebook. Today I'm steady with customers. First move is smile and ask one question. Portion meant the news came at 2 p.m. only. Protect meant the closing circuit with the ledger by the mop sink. Smell of lemon and wet tile, 2 breaths, 1 line. The agreement rewired the day. Cappuccino after the first tray of croissants, song after the early bank call, stroll after the lunch rush. Even it meant jazz on red days and silence on blue ones. Ease it meant cold water on wrists instead of one more pastry. His staff didn't get a new boss. They got the same one, less brittle. Tips rose. So did the corners of his mouth. You might think all this is too small to matter, but synapses change by repetition, not by philosophy. Your RAS learns what you celebrate and repeats it. Your dopamine system learns what patterns predict comfort and pursues them. You can either let algorithms write those patterns, or you can become an author of them. Authoring starts with the smallest line, one sentence in the morning, one line at night. Notice the room. The light has a temperature. The floor has a pressure. The air touches the fine hairs at your wrists. You are alive in a body that responds to gentle, consistent cues more than to speeches. Use that mercy. We'll add a micro-practice that stitches attention back to the body when work goes long, the 90-second walkout. Every 90 minutes, you stand, walk to a doorway or window, and let your eyes look as far as they can for 3 breaths. Distance relaxes the ocular muscles and cools the midbrain. You return and touch your task with one small move, a sentence, a saved file, a send. The walkout is not a break you must earn. It's oxygen you must supply. Another story in a small beige exam room that smells of disinfectant and paper. Omar, a medical student, found himself doom-scrolling between patients to escape the pressure of being watched. He felt hollow by day's end and slept like a hunted animal. He wrote the agreement on a note card he kept in his pocket. Earn it. Look up 3 facts after every patient, then 1 minute of the feed. Even if a case ran hot, he put the phone away and stood by the window, eyes on the parking lot horizon for 2 breaths. Ease it. When the phone tugged in lecture, he pressed his cold water bottle against his wrist for 10 seconds and wrote 1 sentence in his notebook. In a week, the hollowness lifted a notch. In a month, he noticed a quiet, steady aliveness where panic used to be. The medicine didn't change. The fuel did. Identity always returns here, because fuel without identity becomes a diet you abandon at the first stress. You are not a slave to novelty. You are the awareness that chooses inputs and trains cravings. You are the one who spends dopamine wisely and reads the room inside your skull. Say the sentence that keeps the floor under you, I am the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself. Feel the jaw soften, the collarbones widen. There's your floor. Your homework is lived. Tomorrow morning, do prime before pixels. Speak your cue and write 1 North Star inch. Before noon, portion once. Move 1 app, set 1 message window, bury 1 notification. Before bed, protect with a closing circuit. 2 breaths, 1 ledger line, 1 sentence for tomorrow's first inch. Pick 1 earn it pairing today and 1 even it choice tonight. When the tug comes, ease it with cold wrists and a 5-minute move. Log I handled. With a body cue, warm hands, looser jaw, steadier breath. Read your ledger aloud so your RAS knows the story you're in. Feel the cool at your upper lip. Feel the chair hold your hips. Hear the soft, far sound. You've trained reactions, rooms, repairs. Now you're training fuel. The steadiness you want isn't a mood you chase. It's the chemistry you cultivate, 1 clear input at a time, until confidence stops being a surge and becomes your resting tone. Part 10 is about decisions, the quiet, repeated kind that build a life while no one is watching, and the loud, consequential kind that tilt the next year. Triggers are often disguised choices. When the amygdala shouts, the choice feels binary: fight or flee, prove or disappear, say yes or explode. You'll install 2 frameworks that turn binaries into better maps: the decision delta and the 5-minute flywheel. The decision delta gives you a simple way to choose under uncertainty without waiting for perfect information or perfect confidence. The 5-minute flywheel converts hard choices into the smallest visible action, so momentum carries you instead of anxiety. Together, they make steadiness a series of navigable forks, not a cliff you either leap or don't. Begin inside your body, the only place choices actually happen. Feel the cool brush of air at the rim of your nostrils and the warmer exhale on your upper lip. Notice the slow pull of gravity down the back of your ribs. Let your shoulders drop a centimeter and your molars part. Hear one fast sound, the low wash of traffic, a faint fan, a neighbor's footfall. These simple cues tell your cortex, I'm in a room, not in a threat movie. Choices made from rooms tend to be wiser than choices made from movies. The decision delta is a small triangle you can sketch on a napkin. At the left point is now me, at the right point is future me, at the top is reality. Most decisions seize one corner and ignore the others. Panic picks now me only, relief now, cost later. Fantasy picks future me only, grand plans, no present move. Perfection picks reality as a judge, trying to collect every fact until movement is safe, which never arrives. The delta's rule is simple. Ask one question at each corner, then choose the inch that satisfies all three. Good enough. Now me asks, what reduces unnecessary pain in the next hour while preserving integrity? Future me asks, what keeps options open and builds a skill I'll want later? Reality asks, what is true that doesn't care about my feelings? When you answer all three with one behavior you can perform today, the knot loosens. You haven't found certainty, you've found direction. There's light science behind the triangle. Present focus engages immediate reward circuits. Future focus recruits prospection networks in the medial prefrontal cortex. Reality testing leans on lateral prefrontal and parietal networks. Pulling all three keeps the salience network from crowning the scariest story and calling it truth. You are not eliminating emotion. You are widening your frame so emotion becomes data, not dictator. Try it on a live edge. Picture a job opportunity that both excites and scares you. Now me, unnecessary pain in the next hour might be rumination. You reduce it with one clarifying email instead. Future me, options open if you learn to advocate. You list the skills this role trains whether or not you get it. Stakeholder management, scope clarity, public speaking reps. Reality, comp package is fixed this quarter. Travel is heavy, one team is under-resourced. The inch that satisfies all three might be, request a short call to clarify the first 90 days and one measure of success, then run a 5-minute draft of questions. You haven't committed to yes or no. You've committed to a better question and the smallest action that moves you toward a truthful answer. Check your body, the temperature on your cheeks, the weight of your tongue, your hands cool or warm. Let your eyes land on a single object across the room and keep them there for one slow breath. You are training yourself to choose from a steady platform, not a wobble. A Tuesday night anecdote on a couch the color of storm clouds. Taek and Lena are considering moving to a cheaper city. Their throats tighten whenever the topic comes up. It feels like an identity referendum. They run the delta aloud. Naomi asks, what shrinks pain tonight while we decide? They choose to stop doom-scrolling housing forums and write 3 questions they actually need answered. Future me asks, what skill will we wish we had no matter what? They pick budgeting together and the courage to ask for help. They schedule a call with friends who relocated. Reality asks, what is simply true? Their current rent is 41% of income. Their parents live a flight away. Lena's job can go hybrid. The inch is small and visible. A shared spreadsheet and a 2-sentence email to Lena's manager about hybrid policy. The room's temperature drops. They haven't solved their life. They have reduced the drama cost of living it. The 5-minute flywheel turns decisions into kinetic energy. It has 4 parts you can run in less time than you've spent second-guessing. Name, nudge, note, nourish. Name means you label the fork in one plain sentence. Decide whether to accept the Thursday talk. Nudge is the smallest visible action that makes the next action easier. Draft the first 2 lines of the acceptance email. sketch a 3-bullet outline, ask one clarifying question. Note means you write one line in the confidence ledger that begins with "I handled," even if the handling was tiny. Nourish is a microdose of goodness. Stretch your spine, step into daylight, take one sip like it matters, to teach your dopamine system to expect a pleasant exhale after movement. The wheel turns because success is built into the smallest push, and your animal learns to prefer motion over perfect plans. You'll see how these pair when the stakes feel high but information is thin. Decision paralysis is often the amygdala's attempt to avoid blame. The delta distributes the weight. The flywheel sneaks the first inch past your fear. 5 minutes is not a trick. It's a biochemical window short enough to bypass dread, long enough to register a real change in state. Notice your senses again, the pressure at your sit bones, the tiny sound your lips make when they part, the way your shirt touches your collarbones. These are the handles that keep you from falling down the well of endless options. A story from a bright co-working space that smells like espresso and warm dust. Sumi, a product designer, is offered a chance to lead a feature sprint outside her comfort zone. Old Sumi would over-research, stall, and quietly hope the chance passes. Trained Sumi draws a triangle on her notebook. Now me, reduce pain by naming fear and running one breath. Future me, want reps in cross-functional leadership. Reality, delivery date in 4 weeks. Support engineer availability 2 days a week. She chooses the inch. Ask for 20 minutes to clarify scope and success metrics. During those 20 minutes, she runs a 5-minute flywheel, names the fork, nudges by sketching a first draft of the kickoff agenda, notes in her ledger, nourishes with a minute of sun through the window. When the meeting arrives, her body hums, but her mouth has a sentence ready. She says yes with a constraint. I'll lead if we lock the review cadence Mondays and Thursdays. The hum becomes a current she can steer. When choices pile up, your brain wants to compress them into an all-or-nothing identity play. If I were confident, I'd always choose X. Confidence doesn't mean you always choose the bold thing. It means you choose the accurate thing with a calm body. The delta protects accuracy. The flywheel protects motion. Accuracy with motion builds trust. There's a decision most people avoid because it carries shame, ending something that no longer fits. The delta has no bias toward staying or going. It has bias toward clarity. A client named Matteo sat with a business partnership that corroded him. Now me asked, what reduces pain today without blowing up tomorrow? He stopped answering messages after 6 p.m. Future me asked, what skill do I want whether I stay or go? He picked clean exit conversations and proposal writing. Reality asked, what is true? Revenue had plateaued, values diverged in hiring. The inch was to draft a 2-paragraph proposal for a new scope or a 6-week wind-down, then schedule a talk. 5-minute flywheel carried the draft, 1 ledger line. I handled fear by writing the first paragraph and a walk around the block to mark the step. The partnership ended 2 months later without scorched earth. He did get brave. He got methodical. Check your breath. See if the exhale can lengthen by 1 count on its own. Feel the skin along your jaw near the ears. Let your gaze soften to pan the edges of the room, then return to a single point. This toggling is a decision too, detail and panorama, both needed. Sometimes uncertainty is real, and waiting is the wise choice. Waiting feels like doing nothing, and your nervous system hates it. The Delta's Future Me question rescues waiting from avoidance by asking, what keeps options open while I wait? That might be building skills, saving cash, or practicing the performance part of the choice. A nurse practitioner named nor waited on licensure in a new state. Now me, reduce pain by limiting time on the application portal. Future me, build confidence by rehearsing patient flow scripts. Reality, license timelines are out of her control. The inch, 20 minutes a day of simulation, 5-minute flywheel to set it up. By the time the license arrived, her body had more reps of calm entry lines, "Here's what we'll do today," than her peers. Waiting had become training. We'll add a companion to the delta called the two-question tiebreaker for when you feel stuck between two good options. After you run the triangle, ask, which option teaches me more even if it fails? Which option costs me less if I'm wrong? The brain loves a winner-take-all story. Tiebreaker gives you a camera angle where learning and cost tilt the scale. Over time, you will notice that teaches more and costs less if wrong often point in the same direction. Smaller, earlier, reversible moves. In a lab that smells like ethanol and warm plastic, two postdocs argue which assay to run first. Red room energy builds. The pie grounds, then runs the tiebreaker aloud. Which teaches more even if it fails, which costs less if wrong. They choose the quicker, noisier assay to map the landscape, then the expensive one later. A week is saved. No one calls it wisdom. They call it progress. Your nervous system calls it relief. Notice your hands. If they're cool, rub them until warmth blooms. If they're warm, press them together and feel the pressure at your palms. Listen for a small sound you've ignored. Air moving through a vent, fabric shifting. Choices feel less life or death when the body has a friend nearby. Decisions in relationships ache because they entwine identity and belonging. The delta can still hold. Leela wonders whether to tell her friend the joke at her expense strung. Now me, reduce pain by not stewing, breathe and plan. Future me, be someone who is kind and clear, practice small truth. Reality, friend cares but the group laughs at sharpness. The inch is a text. Hey, quick note, the joke landed harder than you meant. Can we steer clear of that one with me? Love you. 5 minutes to draft and send, a ledger line, a walk to the window for daylight. If the friend balks, the tiebreaker tilts toward learning even if it fails. You find out which friendships can hold your clarity. Uncertainty becomes a filter instead of a fog. There's an edge case that scares many high achievers, deciding to rest when the culture deifies grind. Use the delta. Now me, reduce unnecessary pain by stopping the simmering cortisol burn, breathe and close the laptop. Future me, protect long-term capacity, schedule a block that no one can buy back for you. Reality, the body is finite, sleep debt taxes cognition, you're not an exemption. The inch is not a nap fantasy. It's an alarm to leave the office and a text that proposes a new ETA with a buffer. 5-minute flywheel carries the action. Shoes on, door shut, ledger line. I handled the urge to martyr, I left. Then a small kindness like stretching your hip flexors. This is not laziness, it's stewardship. Science again to keep you anchored. Decisions under stress narrow the brain's search to what has worked before. The amygdala loves familiar ruts. Asking the 3 questions expands the search space. Moving a small inch exploits the new path so it doesn't vanish. Each time you run the wheel, you add myelination to a circuit where action follows clarity. Over weeks, you don't feel more certain. You feel more carried by a rhythm you trust. One more story in a bright exam hall with a clock that clicks too loud. Awa sits for a certification test that her job depends on. Partway through, a wave of panic passes like a rip current. Old Awa would white-knuckle and speed, then crash. She runs a micro-delta. Now me, reduce pain by anchoring breath once. Future me, keep options open by avoiding a blank section, mark the monsters and move. Reality, 30 questions remain, time is finite. The inch, 2 slow breaths, circle 3 questions, answer 2 easy ones now. 5-minute flywheel is abbreviated, name the fork, nudge with 1 answer, note silently, I handled a rip current, nourish with a single deep exhale. She passes. Confidence is not the absence of rip currents, it's the presence of paddling you can do while in one. Return to your senses, the light on your knuckles, the air at your upper lip, cool and then warm, the faint plastic smell of your keyboard or the paper's dry scent. You choose from here. We'll layer a drill that pairs with both frameworks, the decision backcast. Instead of forecasting from now forward, you step to future me and look backward for the smallest hinge that made the difference. Close your eyes for 10 seconds and imagine that 6 months from now you feel quietly proud. What's the smallest hinge in the next 7 days that you thank yourself for? You don't write a manifesto. You write 1 sentence. I sent the uncomfortable email. I shipped the ugly first draft. I asked for a meeting to narrow scope. Then you run the 5-minute flywheel against that hinge today. Backcasting taps the same networks as mental time travel, but anchors it to action, not fantasy. There's a founder sitting in a shared office at dusk, blinds casting lines on his desk. He backcasts, sees a version of himself who negotiated a fair contract instead of bleeding cash. The hinge was a sentence. We can deliver X by Y if we lock Z. 5 minutes later, the sentence is drafted, a call is on the calendar, and the ledger reads, I handled avoidance, breath warm by the end. The company survives the season, the movie didn't save him, the inch did. Identity waits at the end of every decision because you become what you repeatedly choose. You are not a person who just knows. You are the awareness that asks 3 good questions and moves a visible inch. You are the one who can be with uncertainty without letting it salt the earth. Whisper the line that keeps you honest. I am the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself. Feel your collarbones widen and your jaw soften. That softness is not weakness. It is the slack in the system that makes steering possible. Your homework is practical and small. Draw the decision delta on a card. Today, run it once on a live choice and choose 1 inch that satisfies now me, future me, and reality. Then spin the 5-minute flywheel, name the fork, nudge 1 visible action, note 1 ledger line, nourish with 1 breath of daylight or 1 stretch. Tonight, backcast once and write the hinge sentence for the next 7 days. Read it aloud in the morning before pixels. When doubt shows up, don't try to banish it. Invite it to sit in the passenger seat and watch you drive an inch. Feel your breath again, the cool in, the warm out. Feel the chair hold your weight, the temperature on your cheeks, the quiet thread of a far sound. Choices won't get easier. You will get steadier at making them and kinder at living with them. That's the difference between being triggered by uncertainty and being trained by it. Part 11 is about staying trained when life gets long and weird. Not the 1-week sprint where your tools feel shiny, but the month with sick kids, shifting deadlines, dead car batteries, and a mind that wakes at 3:11 a.m. rehearsing disasters. Confidence slips in drips, not crashes, and you often don't notice until your calendar eats your values and your body runs on fumes. Today you install 2 frameworks for endurance, the Keystone Rhythm and the Relapse Radar. The first creates a repeating daily cadence that keeps your window of tolerance open without you having to think about it. The second quietly detects when your old reflexes are returning and gives you an automatic way back. You'll add a tiny drill called the 2-minute sweep so environments stop picking your mood for you. When rhythm meets radar, steadiness stops being an act and starts being your atmosphere. Begin in the only place you can start, your body. Feel the cool kiss of air at the rim of your nostrils, the warmer brush on your upper lip as you exhale. Let your shoulder blades slide down your back like smooth stones finding a riverbed. Notice the weight where your thighs meet the chair, the tug of gravity down the back ribs. Hear one far sound, the faint hiss of a vent, the soft buzz of traffic, the murmured clink of a neighbor's dishes. Every time you notice, your nervous system gets the message. We're in a room, not a threat movie. That's the condition for rhythm. The Keystone Rhythm is a braided loop. Start line, deep work arc, people window, closing circuit. You repeat this braid most days with flexibility, not fanaticism. Start line is a 5-minute ignition you run before pixels. 2, 4, 4, 6 breaths. You're in a coach cue and your North Star inch written by hand. Deep work arc is one protected block, even 45 minutes, that sits behind your focus fence so you get a clean rep of choosing. People window is a time-boxed period for messages, meetings, and care that you enter with ground, guide, give. Closing circuit is the 3-part end, breathe, ledger line, and a tiny setup for tomorrow's first inch. One loop daily. When life explodes, you run just start line and closing circuit to keep the track warm. Brains love predictable edges. Your amygdala relaxes when it knows there will be a start and a stop. There's a simple science reason: context-dependent memory. When you pair a ritual with a state and a task, you make retrieval easier. The start line primes the RAS to look for your inch. The arc caches it. The window connects without drowning. The circuit closes loops, so rumination has less to feed on. The loop becomes like the drum in a marching band, quiet enough to fade into life, steady enough to keep your feet from tripping. Sense your skin along the jaw where it meets the ear. Feel the temperature at your temples. Keep your eyes on a single object for one slow breath, then soften them to take in the entire field. The vestibular system likes both focus and panorama. Alternating them is a small gift you can give your brain several times a day. A story from a 4th-floor walk-up that smells like burnt toast and copy paper. Arnie works customer support while finishing a degree. January turned into a trench, frosted breath on the morning bus, a midterm that mutated, a boyfriend who texted, "We need space." Arnie's old pattern was heroic bursts, then collapse. She built a Keystone Rhythm she could carry when she felt thin. Start line happened at her tiny kitchen table. 2, 4, 4, 6s while watching light crawl up the fire escape. Then a sentence, first inch. Ask one clarifying question on the angry tickets. Deep work arc was a single focused hour before her shift, where she studied the gnarliest topic with her phone entombed in a coat pocket in another room. People window was slack, and calls from 10:12 and 2:4 with ground, guide, give posted on a sticky near her screen. Closing circuit was 2 breaths by the bathroom mirror, 1 ledger line. I handled a caps lock email with a question, shoulders dropped, and laying out a note card with tomorrow's inch. February didn't get kinder. Arnie did. She wasn't performing calm. She was riding a loop. Now the Relapse Radar. You never lose your triggers, you train your returns. Radar is a set of 5 early flags: pace, posture, phrase, procrastination, phone, that tell you you're drifting toward old weather. Pace means your words rush or you walk like you're late when you're not. Posture means shoulders climb and jaw locks without you noticing. Phrase means certain sentences reappear. I'll just do it. There's no time. If I don't, no one will. Procrastination means you're allergic to the smallest wise action and instead tidy, snack, or research forever. Phone means thumb to screen beats breath to body every idle 12 seconds. The moment you spot 2 flags in 1 hour, you run the return protocol. Hands still, 2, 4, 4, 6s, 1 anchor phrase, then the smallest wise action you can complete in under 2 minutes. The radar turns shame into signal and signal into a path. Check your senses, keep the radar gentle, feel the skin at your wrists where air is coolest. Listen for the faintest sound you can, the tick of cooling metal, the whisper of fabric when you shift. Let your molars part. The body becomes soft enough to receive information without bracing against it. In a beige hallway outside a conference room, a product manager named Rui noticed 3 flags at once before a quarterly review. Pace fast, jaw tight, phrase no time looping. Old Rui would have sprinted into the room and overtalked. Radar caught him. Return protocol, palms on the cool metal door frame, 2446's, anchor phrase, witness first, act second. Then 1 2-minute wise action. Print the 1-page summary he kept tweaking. He walked in slower. He used the 2-beat pause. His mouth said less. The review went from adversarial to specific. He walked out with edits instead of ulcers. The radar wasn't heroic. It was a smoke alarm that led to a fire extinguisher. Add the 2-minute sweep. Environments hijack nervous systems more than we admit. Cluttered desks, screens full of tabs, rooms without a visible horizon. The sweep is a micro-reset you perform before the deep work arc and again during the closing circuit. You set a timer for 120 seconds and move only what your next inch needs within reach. Everything else goes out of sight. You don't organize your life. You stage your next step like a theater hand setting a prop. The effect is greater than it should be because your visual field stops yelling and your prefrontal cortex stops spending glucose suppressing irrelevant cues. Science bridge in 1 paragraph. Visual clutter increases cognitive load. Every unresolved object is a small open loop. Open loops raise salience. Salience tugs at attention. Attention tug triggers the mild threat response. The sweep converts a field of open loops into 1 clear loop. Your amygdala loves this reduction even more than it loves coffee. Feel the pressure at your sit bones. Trace, with your eyes, the edge of a table or shelf, slow enough to feel your ocular muscles work. Let your breath lengthen on the exhale by a count of 1. These are the quiet moves that make the rest possible. Here's an endurance anecdote. In a hospital residence lounge smelling of reheated soup and sanitizer, Myra, a second year, noticed she was snapping at nurses after night shifts. Flags stacked, pace, posture, phone. Her Keystone Rhythm had been obliterated by rotating schedules. She built a micro-rhythm she could run on any shift. Start line on a bench in the stairwell, 2 breaths and small step, then next. Deep work arc replaced with a single 20-minute learning block per day. People window defined by 1 ground, guide gives sentence before handover. Closing circuit as a shower mantra, 2 breaths with hot water on the back of her neck, and 1 ledger line spoken out loud. Relapse Radar caught the spike. Return protocol ran in elevators. In 6 weeks, her error rate dropped, and her evaluations mentioned calm under pressure 3 times. The hospital didn't slow. Myra found a pace that didn't sand her down. Sometimes relapse shows up as numbing, not noise. You look up and realize your evenings slid into 3 hours of soft scrolling and self-avoidance. Radar can catch that too. Phone flag plus procrastination flag equals return protocol plus a gentle exit. Cold water on wrists, 1 5-minute flywheel nudge, and an even-it choice from the dopamine agreement, book and lamplight instead of bite-sized chaos. You don't break the trance with self-hate. You swap the soundtrack and move an inch. Pause and take inventory of the room like a radio operator reading a weather report. Light cool on your knuckles. Air dry at your lips. A shadow with a soft edge on the wall. The mind cannot simultaneously catastrophize and render the present in fine detail. You are training the rendering reflex. Sustainability also demands red line rules, 2 or 3 non-negotiables that protect your nervous system like guardrails on a cliff road. Red lines aren't perfection contracts. They're promises you can keep even on bad days. No work messages in bed. No big decisions after 10 p.m., 3 minutes of daylight before I touch headlines. People break themselves on grand rules and save themselves with small ones. Choose a red line that's easy enough to keep when you're tired. Keep it for 10 days. Your identity grows around kept promises the way a vine wraps a trellis. A Thursday night in a kitchen with lemon dish soap and a humming fridge. Javon runs a small team and a household. His relapse was subtle, more late-night slack, more morning dread, more brittle calls. He wrote 2 red-line rules on an index card: no slack in bedroom, no yes without a question. He taped it to the inside of the front door at eye level. Keystone Rhythm came back like a shy cat. Start line at the table, small arc before the kids woke. People window with 1 sentence at the top of agendas, closing circuit while rinsing a pan. Radar caught the nights when the phone burned a hole in his hand at 11:40. Return protocol ran in the hallway with his palms on cool paint. The house didn't get quieter. Javon did. You'll meet travel, illness, grief. Rhythm will wobble. Radar will save days you would have written off. Use the 60% day rule. If you can't run the whole loop, run 60%. Start line for 2 minutes. Deep work arc for 20, 1 people window sentence, closing circuit for 1 breath and 1 ledger line. 60% keeps identity intact. You aren't a person who slips and stops. You're a person who scales and continues. Scan your skin. Notice the cool strip of air on your lower lip. Feel the soft weight of your tongue. If your hands are cool, rub them until warmth blooms. If they are warm, press them together and sense the pressure. Small switches, big signal. Let's lay in a long, quiet story of maintenance. A senior teacher named Ria, 49, loved her work and dreaded the committee meetings that came with it. For years, she survived them and decompressed with wine and grading until midnight, then slept badly and woke brittle. She installed a Keystone Rhythm sized for semesters. Start line happened at her desk by a window that faced a maple. She wrote 1 sentence before email each morning. Today I'll ask 1 student to teach back yesterday's concept. Deep work arc was a single class prepped behind a focus fence with her phone in a different room and a kitchen timer that ticked like a metronome. People window included the committee meeting, run with social temperature gauge and 2-beat pause. Closing circuit was a walk down the hall to look out the long window at the practice field, 2 breaths, a ledger line, and laying a piece of chalk on tomorrow's stack of printouts. Relapse Radar flagged 3 meetings in a week where volume rose and shoulders climbed. Return protocol became part of her chair posture. 2 years later, a new teacher asked, "How do you stay so calm?" Ria laughed softly. "I don't. I reset 100 times a week. That's the truth." Calm is not the absence of weather. It's the presence of rhythm and radar. Add the identity anchor protocol so long months don't erode who you say you are. You craft a single sentence that pairs your value and your behavior and tape it where your eyes land. I am a calm conductor. I set tempo, not tension. Then you perform it in 1 microwave daily. Place palms flat before you speak in a hot room. Ask 1 clarifying question before you promise. Lower your voice by 30% when the room turns red. Each time you do, you whisper, "That's like me." The phrase recruits your brain's self-referencing network to file the act under identity, not accident. This is how identity becomes gravity, pulling you back when chaos knocks you sideways. Check your breath. Let your exhale lengthen, then pause for one count before the next inhale. Listen for a distant sound. Trace the edge of the closest rectangle in your field of view. Feel the subtle sway in your torso even when you think you're still. That sway is your nervous system balancing. Your job isn't to freeze it. Your job is to ride it. There's one more endurance tool worth carrying, the weekly repair ritual. 15 minutes once a week. You write 3 lines. Where did I drift? Where did I return? What will I make easier for future me? Then you do one environmental action, move a charger, place a sticky with your anchor phrase, schedule a 20-minute arc, prep a glass by the sink for morning water. The ritual removes friction and salts your week with one future kindness. Future you repays with steadiness. When grief hits, tools feel small. Use them anyway, smaller. Rhythm shrinks to start line and closing circuit. Radar flags when your body starts to sprint from a pain it can't outrun. Return protocol becomes a hand on your sternum and a sentence. Of course, values to behavior keeps one thin rail. Because I value love, I answer 2 messages and eat something warm. You don't optimize grief. You keep a little floor under it. Floors matter. Feel the air cool on your upper lip. Feel it warm your lip on the way out. Let your shoulders drop and your jaw soften. Put your eyes on a far point for 2 breaths, then rest them on something near. Your animal is learning that you can be its keeper. Your homework is gentler than it looks. Build your Keystone Rhythm on an index card with 4 words you'll remember. Start, arc, window, close. Tomorrow, run all 4 or run 60%. Choose 2 relapse radar flags that show up most for you. Write them on your lock screen with return right arrow breath plus anchor plus 2-minute inch. Add the 2-minute sweep before your next deep work arc and again before your closing circuit. Pick one red line rule you can keep even on a bad day and keep it for 10. After the first week, run the weekly repair and move one object that will make the next wise action easier. Read your confidence ledger aloud. Let your RAS treat steadiness as relevant. Identity always, because this is not about surviving the next storm. It's about becoming the kind of person storms don't move off their center by more than a step. You are not your relapse. You are the one who noticed and returned. You are the awareness that rides a rhythm and listens for radar. You are the observer behind the weather, not the weather itself. Whisper it once so your body hears. Feel width across the collarbones and weight in the hips. That is your room, and you can carry it. Part 12 is the integration, where your tools stop feeling like tools and start feeling like how you live. You've interrupted hijacks, rewired old scenes, set boundaries, cooled rooms, fed your attention, decided under fog, repaired fast, and kept rhythm under weather. Today you'll bind it all with 2 final frameworks, the Personal Operating System, POS, and the Legacy Loop. The POS is your 1-page playbook that turns scattered skills into a single reflex. The Legacy Loop makes your training bigger than your mood by giving it somewhere to go, a person, a place, a purpose that benefits from your steadiness. When you carry these, confidence isn't a trick you do, it's the way you move through the world. Begin where all your best moves begin, in the body. Feel the cool kiss of air at the rim of your nostrils and the warmer brush on your upper lip as you exhale. Notice the weight where your thighs meet the chair, the steady pull of gravity down your back ribs. Let your shoulders drop a centimeter, let your molars part. Hear one far sound, the thin wash of traffic, the hum of a vent, a neighbor's muffled steps. This is your doorway. You've walked it so many times it's smooth beneath your feet. Your personal operating system is written like a poem you can remember at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. in a red room. 5 lines, no fluff. Identity, first move, rooms, repair, fuel. Identity is the single sentence you chose. I am a calm conductor. I set tempo, not tension. Or I am steady water. I make jars of sand clear. First move is the behavior that buys you 90 seconds of brain back. Hands still, 2 4 4 6s, one anchor phrase. Rooms is your ground. Guide, give, ground the body. Guide with one useful sentence. Give one clear next step. Repair is your 4R, recognize, recenter, repair, recode. Fuel is the attention nutrition plan and the dopamine agreement. Prime before pixels, portion novelty, protect with closing, earn it, even it, ease it. One page, printed or pictured, where your eyes land. When life tilts, you don't reinvent, you rerun the OS. It's not a cage, it's a bridge. A simple science bridge, short enough to carry. Repetition wires basal ganglia loops. Compact cues retrieve whole cascades. Your OS compresses hundreds of reps into 5 switches you can flip without hunting for them. When your amygdala is loud, you don't have time to search the library you built. You have time to touch a sentence and let your body start moving. Feel the temperature along your cheeks. Feel your hands, cool or warm. Fix your gaze on a doorknob or a book spine for one slow breath, then soften your eyes to take in the whole room. Narrow, then wide. The brain likes both. Cadence is medicine. Let's write your OS live. Identity, pick the line that makes your ribs widen a little. First move, hands still, 4 4 6 twice, anchor phrase, witness first, act second. Rooms, ground palms open, guide name the smallest question, give one time box step. Repair, 4R and clean apology, impact, ownership, next step. Fuel prime North Star inch before pixels, portion messages in windows, protect closing circuit, earn it after an effort, even it to smooth spikes, ease it with cold wrists and a 5-minute move. Write it by hand once, whisper it once, take a picture. Your nervous system loves handwriting, it's a physical promise. In a fake wood-paneled conference room with a too loud clock, clicky click click, you open your notebook and see the 5 lines. A director interrupts before you finish your first sentence. You don't reach for a new trick, you reach for the OS, hands still, 4 4 6 twice. Give me 30 seconds so we don't lose the thread, intercept, then we'll take your point next, pivot. At the end, you repair one clipped reply with impact, ownership, next step. Later, phone face down, closing circuit, 2 breaths, one I handled, 1 sentence for tomorrow's first inch. You didn't perform calm, you ran your OS. Notice the fabric against your collarbones, the tiny click when you swallow, the faint draft across your wrists. These are the handles you never have to hunt for, they live in the room with you. Now the legacy loop. Training is sticky when it serves someone beyond the self. Legacy doesn't mean monumental, it means direction plus stewardship. The loop has 4 beats: choose, channel, contribute, carry. Choose is a person, place, or problem you care about, a kid who watches you, a team you laid, a craft you love, a street you live on. Channel means you run your OS in that direction on purpose. You show up with ground, guide, give in the spaces that need it most. Contribute is a small, regular act that leaves things better, mentoring 1 hour a month, cleaning the park once, sharing a playbook with your team, sending a kind debrief after a hard day. Carry is storytelling. Once a week you tell yourself, and sometimes them, the story of one handled moment and why it matters. The story wires identity into community. This is the kind of thing we do. There's science under the sentiment. Purpose dampens pain circuits and widens tolerance for effort. Prosocial behavior increases serotonin and oxytocin, which cooperate with dopamine to make steady work pleasurable instead of brittle. Legacy locates your training inside a field of meaning that outlives your mood. That field is a shelter on hard days. A Saturday morning story with flour in the air and sunlight on a kitchen floor. You teach your goddaughter to make pancakes. She spills batter, eyes wide, waiting for the sharpness adults sometimes throw. You feel the tiniest heat rising, mess time, stickiness, identity, first move. Not urgent, not dangerous, you whisper. Small step, then next. You guide, let's make one small circle in the middle. You give, you flip, I'll catch. Her shoulders drop. 20 years from now, she won't remember the recipe. She will remember how her chest felt around you. That's the legacy loop working in a room that smells like vanilla and butter. Check your breath. Let the exhale lengthen by one silent count. Feel the skin under your jaw soften. Hear a far sound. You're ready for the final drill that binds everything to a day you can actually live. The Master Day drill is a rehearsal you run once a week for 10 minutes. You stage 3 scenes in your head with sensory detail: a red room, a yellow decision, a blue lull. In each, you run the OS and one tool you love. Red room, you see the glass table, hear the HVAC hiss, feel the chair under your thighs. You ground, use the 2-beat pause, speak the smallest useful sentence. Yellow decision, you draw the decision delta on a sticky. Answer now me, future me, reality, spin the 5-minute flywheel. Blue lull, you set a focus fence, ignite with a tight start, and ride a 25-minute arc. After, you log one line in your ledger and read last week's legacy note. 10 minutes in your nervous system previews the moves the same way athletes visualize a course. Previews lower surprise, lowers spikes. A story in a subway car that smells like damp metal and strangers' laundry. A teenager bumps you hard, your phone tilts in your hand. A script from years back stirs, watch it. You choose the OS in micro, hands still, one breath, eyes on a bolt head near the door. Anchor phrase like a feather on your tongue, not urgent, not dangerous. You guide yourself, shift half a step. You give the inch, you plant your feet at a wider stance. No lecture, no superiority. Just steadiness in a crowd of weather. The car sways, you sway, no one spills. Notice the light on your knuckles, the cool at your upper lip, the little sway in your torso even when you think you're still, your body's way of telling you it knows how to balance. You have felt that sway in boardrooms, kitchens, hallways, buses. You will feel it again and befriend it. One last framework, tiny and potent, the 10-word recommit. It saves days you would otherwise throw away. When you break your rhythm, when the radar blares and you ignore it, you say 10 words and act. I slipped, I return now, first move, hands still, breath. Then you do 1 4 4 6 and one smallest wise action in under 2 minutes. No penance, no start tomorrow. The recommit turns the calendar into clay, not concrete. Another story after midnight, blue light on a face, thumb flicking. You said you'd sleep an hour ago. 10-word recommit. I slipped, I return now. First move, hands still, breath. Phone face down, cold water on wrists. 1 5-minute move, brush teeth, close laptop, lay out shoes. Ledger line whispered in the bathroom mirror, I handled the tug. You don't win a war, you rejoin a rhythm. Feel the room, the air touches the fine hairs at your wrist. Your breath warms your upper lip as it leaves. The chair holds you. The floor holds the chair. The building holds the floor. The planet holds the building, which is a melodramatic way of saying you're supported more than your fear admits. We'll close with a long breath and a short promise. Long breath, inhale slowly through the nose for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Again, feel your ribs glide under your fingertips. Short promise, you will be hijacked again. Someone will speak sharply. A plan will fall apart at hour 19. Your animal will surge, and you will have rails. You will have a sentence that finds your mouth, a breath that returns your blood to wisdom, a tiny move directed at what matters, a repair that buys trust back, a rhythm that outlasts mood, a reason larger than today. You will get to the end of a day, and then 10, and then a season, and realize the world didn't get nicer, you got steadier. The room didn't stop wobbling, you learned to set tempo. That's not a miracle, that's reps. Identity one last time, because identity is what you'll carry when you forget every method name. Say it quietly and feel it shape your posture. You are the awareness behind the weather, not the weather itself. You are the one who can watch a storm without becoming rain. You are the person whose hands know where to rest, and whose voice knows how to lower, and whose eyes know where to land. You are trained, not in the loud way that needs applause, in the quiet way that makes rooms breathe. Your homework is a gift to future you. Write your personal operating system by hand on one page and tape it where your eyes land. Choose one legacy loop target and one tiny weekly contribution. Run the Master Day drill this Sunday for 10 minutes. Keep your ledger and read it aloud at night for a week. When you slip, use the 10-word recommit. When you forget, return. When you wobble, sway, and smile at the body that learned to balance. This is not about never being triggered again. This is about being trained enough to trust yourself when you are. Feel the air cool in, warm out. Feel your jaw slacken. Feel the width across your collarbones and the quiet weight in your hips. Somewhere a clock ticks. Somewhere a kettle hums. Somewhere you are standing in a doorway you've walked 100 times, and you know what to do with your hands and your breath and your next small step. That is steady confidence. That is yours.